a lot of people think because they have a child that almost makes them an expert. You understand me? It's like, even when, I don't have children, but if I was to give advice to a mother or father, of course the ignorant backlash is, well, you don't have children, but you having children does not make you a good parent or a good steward and a manager of another life.
Yep.
Oftentimes, and now I get a lot of young adults that tell me they don't want to have children, and I've been saying that, probably the people that don't want to have children will be the best parents because they will put more intention into the reality of raising a child. Right? Where the people that just have accidental children doesn't mean that you're a good steward, you're a good parent whatsoever. So that idea of you being part of the village that helps them raise a child. 19 Keys is some high level conversation. Tap in with the guys. Peace, family. It's 19 Keys tapping in. It's high level conversations. Today I have a change maker, a community organizer, an individual, you understand me, that has the ability to take all the controversy and negativity and turn it into something positive. I think that this young man, you understand me, has the ability to do great and magnificent things. I think that he has the ability to move communities and move the world all at the same time. And what he focuses on is not the thing that the average young man focuses on, whether it's the club, whether it's women, whether it's aspirations to be in different career fields that you check a box for. But it's more so about community development and specifically young black boys, right? And young black boys are often the most targeted in America because young black boys turn into young black men. And young black men are the most hunted down, murdered, targeted black men ever. You understand? When we fill up the prisons, we fill up the hospitals, we fill up the graves, we fill up the mental asylums for that particular reason. So anybody that's doing the work that comes in with reformation and transformation of the young mind before reprogramming is needed is a friend of mine. You understand me? So I brought none other than the crown one, the King Randall.
Good to meet you, brother. Good to see you. Good to see you again.
Man, appreciate you being here, man. So tell me, man, who is this man I just introduced, man? Who is King Randall? You understand me? And what do you do?
Absolutely. Well, I'm 22 years old. My name is King Randall. I'm from Albany, Georgia. I'm the founder of the X for Boys program in the city of Albany. We work with young men, teaching them how to work on cars, work on houses, do simple automotive repairs such as changing brakes, changing oil, doing sheetrock, painting. We do firearms training. And right now we're in the process of opening a school that'll be open in September 2022. So we can get into the meat of it, but for the most part, that's what I do and who I am.
Oh, man, that's powerful. Oh, yeah, we're about to have a good conversation.
Yes, sir.
This episode is brought to you by Infinite Wealth Strategies.
We just did a lot of things with them for that summer, taught them how to change brakes. We went and got us painting jobs, we was painting people's houses and everything. We had a beautiful summer with those 6 boys. And to this day, some of them are graduated now and, some of them still keep contact. All of them keep contact except for one of them. But it was just beautiful to see, all those children. And that's where I got the boarding school idea from, because I'm just like, these children came
So you want to do it in a boarding school?
Oh yeah, we're doing a boarding school. Yeah. So we got those kids, living with me, man, and to see the changes that they made because of the strict discipline I had, waking them up at a certain time of the day, and my previous time in the Marine.
What is not to cut your wisdom? What's the schedule for the boarding school?
All right, so what a day will look like previously from my Marine Corps background is kind of going to be the same. So they're going to get up at 6. We got up at 4, but they get up at 6 every day from 6 to 7:30 when they wake up, physical exercise. That's from 6 to 7:30. Then after that, they'll go do hygiene for maybe about 30 more minutes. Go shower, brush your teeth, all that stuff, make up your beds, whatever. After that, then they'll go eat breakfast and they'll get bused to school. But they'll go to school and they'll have a boarding house. So they'll get bused to school, have their school day. After school, they'll get dedicated free time and dinner also. Of course, they'll eat at school. But they'll have dedicated free time to go do whatever it is they want to do at the school. We'll have a lounge area. We'll have a basketball gym. We have a place for them to work out. We have a quiet time, like a study room for them. So whatever they decide to do for that hour, I'm going to delegate that time to them to figure out what they want to do, to advance themselves. Right. Or they want to go play video games or whatever like that. We're still going to let them be boys too, but we also going to make sure it's structured. After that, they'll go back to their back to the boarding house, have dinner. probably going to have this little instructor time with them every evening, kind of with the instructors to kind of just talk with them, you know, let them vent, talk about things that may be going on, if you're having any issues, etc. Then lights out, 9 o'clock.
When do they go home?
They won't go home. It'll be complete boarding. They'll only go home for like different breaks, spring break, fall break, Christmas break. They'll have the same breaks like regular school, like just a little small breaks, but during that time they won't be going home. Only reason I say that is because it is extremely tough. And I discovered that during my second round of boarding kids at my house. I had a second round of kids, had 8 of them that time, and 2 of them come from juvenile court. And those kids changed their lives at my house. And I never had to ask them to do anything. And like the kids that I got from the juvenile court system were the best kids I ever had to deal with, because those kids just need somebody to teach them something. And so those kids, I never had asked them to take out the trash, never had to ask them to wash dishes. Like they asking me to help them, you know, with stuff, and they asking me, do I need anything? You know, they're just extremely loyal. But when as soon as they go back home, it's like the next day, I'm getting a phone call. He's back into this, he's back into that. And I'm just like, he was just with me 3 months, doing fine in school, got his grades together, etc. Why when he go back home, back to it the next day? It's insane. You know, but they go home and go get back into those environments or go unlearn the things that, you know, they were taught or get back into their old habits.
I believe that. I think that, you know, the environment raises a child. You understand me? Because, you know, children learn through experiences. You understand me? So it's like the technique of learning and getting good grades and things of that nature is not what actually shapes the mind and the behavior and the characteristics. Because once you go outside the classroom, then you go into the environment, you go into the streets, you go with your friends. That's what's shaping you to make decisions as a child that later develops into, you know, an adult. And so, you know, I've never been to boarding school, but went to private Muslim schools, you understand me, before I went to middle school, which was crazy, the contrast, you understand me? But you know, everything I learned at Muhammad's or Elijah's Educational Center was called in Oakland, California. Like that was some of the best education I got. You understand me? The boys and girls were separated. You know, we got taught knowledge of self, curriculum based on your level of aptitude and learning. You understand me? Rather than just holding you in the grade because of your age. But the boarding school idea is very interesting, and it's funny because, you know, you got a lot of young parents today and just a lot of parents who probably just not good at parenting, period. You know, and relinquishing that responsibility to someone who actually wants to do it, because you got a passion for it, which is different, you understand me, than parents who have accidental children, right? Or going back and forth between baby daddy and baby mama, and in between that, they're utilizing that child as a pawn. Or just environments of poverty, you understand me, they're not getting good meals, they're not getting nutrient-fed meals, and the environment is not conducive for a learning atmosphere that induces creativity and imagination. So, you know, I'm trying to think if me as a parent would consider the idea of boarding school for my child. You understand me now?
I have a long waiting list.
We
got a waiting list.
No, I think by the time, you know, I ain't got a child yet, so you feel me? I got time.
And I think it's for, I respect those parents, you know, who will come to me and just be like, look, I cannot raise him to be no man. I'm doing the best I can, you know, and I've had plenty of parents be like, can you just help me with him? You know, so I go to baseball games, football games, like I've made some of them just my kid, you know, because that's what I have to do. And I want to create an environment where they have father figures, you know, they have women to, you know, look at, to be like somebody I want to date, you know, one day and stuff, because a lot of them don't have no examples or anything, you know, and also some of the parents may be a little like, oh, I don't want him to go to boarding school, whatever like that. I'm just like, well, this won't be the place, you know, for your child. I'm like, this is for, you know, him. And I know a lot of them have to pretend to care, you know, for a bit and stuff. I'm like, mama, look at what's going on at home. Like your kid's barely eating and all that stuff, and you always at the club, etc. Why he can't come to boarding school? You know, so it's just, these are, you know, conversations I have to have. You know, and I try to be, you know, real with the parents too. And usually they don't mind it. I actually don't really get into any arguments with parents in regards to what's happening with their kids, because I have to have conversations with them too. Especially when the kids come to me about different issues they're having. And I'm like, mama, stop telling him you gonna send him off, or stop telling him he this and that, or stop calling him names. Like, that's stupid. Like,
do you think parents know best? I know a lot of people think because they have a child that almost makes them an expert. You understand me? It's like, even when, you know, I don't have children, but if I was to give advice to a mother or father, of course the ignorant backlash is, well, you don't have children, but you having children does not make you a good parent or a good steward and a manager of another life. Oftentimes, and now I get a lot of young adults that tell me they don't want to have children, And I've been saying that, you know, probably the people that don't want to have children will be the best parents because they will put more intention into the reality of raising a child. Right. Where the people that just have accidental children doesn't mean that you're a good steward, you're a good parent whatsoever. So that idea of you being part of the village that helps them raise a child, you understand me? I think a lot of people, when they see this, you know, we had Queen Afua on, and Queen Afua was talking about how she was raising her child without a father, right? And we had her son there with him, Supernova Slime, and he was saying that, you know, his father was on drugs, right? And that what she decided to do was going to actively seek other masculine counterparts within the community to help raise and install certain principles and knowledge within, because she realized as a mother, she can't be his father, right? There's a lot of mothers out there today that think that they replace the father. You never can. Right? Absolutely. That masculine energy, you understand me? He can't get that from you, right? And so what you're doing though, and what I'm hearing though, is this concept of allowing parents, you understand me, to raise a child correctly by tapping into a community source, right? But I want to get into the idea of how you were able to even fund this project, because this is a worldwide community-led project. You understand me? How you able to get it off the ground, you know, at such a young age? You working for Silicon Valley, you know what I'm saying? You rob a bank, what's happening?
Yeah, man. So originally I funded the program. Me and my younger brother would go and paint people's houses. I would fix cars. I learned how to cut hair. I played the drums at church. So all of those were ways that I funded the program to begin with. But of course, you know, trying to ask people for donations in the community, et cetera, was not working out. But of course, people would share things, you know, on social media, et cetera, but I couldn't get anybody to give. I'm just like, this costing me money, you know, my lights, gotta, you know, they killing me, you know, I gotta feed these kids. So it's been plenty of nights with me and my boys ate hot and ready pizzas and beanies and weenies.
Out your pocket, I love that.
That's what I did from the beginning. And, you know, Brother Ben X found me like my first year of the program. And he saw when I took the boys on a field trip, and I was teaching him about being the original man, and he shared the video. This was like way like 3 years ago. And he shot me a message, and you know, I had been following him for a while, and he was teaching about digital real estate. And so I started, I literally spent my last like little $200 on his course to learn how to, you know, market myself on social media, because I'm just like, people will like what I'm doing, and people was already saying you need to start posting it more, because I wasn't really posting like that, because I was just like posting for what, you know. But
a lot of people that do community work don't know the other route of actually getting it seen, because you have your heart in it. And then there's almost this thing to where now if I'm showing it, I'm not doing it for the right reason.
Exactly.
And then a lot of people got to cut that out.
Yeah, you'll get that backlash too. That'll start. But
those are not the people that fund it, so you don't need to listen to them.
Exactly. Most of those people never even sent any money in the first place. But yeah, so after that, I started marketing the program on social media, and slowly but surely we started getting a little traction, you know, here and there. And then I started posting on Twitter, and I'll post on Twitter, you know, as consistent as I, you know, could. But then one day I posted on Twitter about teaching the boys how to do sheetrock. We was doing sheetrock in an old apartment complex, and this was my first year, my second year summer camp. And it went viral, us doing the sheetrock on Twitter. And people started reaching out, and it was mind blowing. Then a White House staffer saw what we were doing, and we got invited to the White House. Got invited to the White House. I don't care how you feel about President Trump, whatever, that's your business. But whatever, we got invited to the White House. We didn't care who was in there. We going to the White House. We some hood kids from Albany, Georgia. We going to the White House.
In there trumpeting, huh?
Yeah, but they paid for everything for us. They paid for our hotel, flights, everything, and we got to see them and stuff. I mean, we had a great time.
So how was President Trump?
And I'll
did y'all meet with him, or
we didn't get to meet him directly because we saw him, but we didn't get to meet him directly because he had just got free from COVID at the time. But we heard from him and stuff like that. But my boys was just like, he ain't say nothing. He ain't say nothing bad. Like, and we went to watch the news after, you know, the speech he gave, and watching the news say what he said versus what we heard was two different things. And we was like, so that's what TV do, you know, like TV goes and twists stuff. But either way, that's neither here nor there.
Is that what led you into more of your political punditry, where you give your commentary?
No. That's kind of like how I grew up, man.
Because you are very effective communicators, and you speak, you know, like a politician.
Understood.
You understand me? So where does that come from as well, and how did you get into more of the political conversation?
Got you. Hold on. Let me answer my first question first. Let me jump past there. So originally, after we went to the White House, we started getting a little traction on social media, etc. And I had originally made a GoFundMe after we first went viral, and we had raised like $20,000 the first week. This before we had even went to the White House. We raised like $20,000 like that first week. And I was mind blown. Now, mind you, I ain't know nothing about no nonprofit, no LLC, none of that stuff. I ain't know none of that little stuff like that. People was like, "Hey, do you have a 501c3?" And I'm like, "What is that?"
Yeah.
You know. So then I had to get a manager. I'm like, "Okay, what's going on?" And so they, helped me get everything situated and stuff like that. Fast forward to March of 2021. I went on Roland Martin show to talk about voter suppression. And me, I'm big on do for self.
Why would they want to restrict voting when you just had record turnout in Georgia?
Well, let me start off by saying you had me mistaken. I'm not a Republican. I do consider myself conservative.
No. Actually, I didn't say Republican. I said you're conservative.
Okay.
I said you're conservative.
Right, absolutely.
That's what I said.
Right. Yeah, I was saying that because you called me a Republican on Twitter. However, with this particular bill, I don't consider voting my particular fight. I do consider voting an asset to us and maybe something we can use as a tactic to help. But as far as us pushing voting all the way out, like voting is going to be some systemic change for the black community, to me is not the way to go. If you look at the human anatomy of the body has as many different parts. And I do respect you guys' fight, in regards to voting, but I don't consider myself fighting for the right to vote that much. Because
do you not vote?
We hadn't got anything.
Do you not vote?
Government. Voting is not my issue to fight. I believe.
So what's your issue to fight?
My issue, I fight for young black men before they die. And that's what I do in my organization. I do teach them to vote, but I don't tell them that voting is going to be the be all end all.
No one says the be all the end all, but it's a part of it.
But you guys promote voting like it's just going to change like the systemic outlook of the black community. That's not where it's at. We have to get out and go do for self in our own community. When I say do for self, you shared one of my tweets, my videos, and I was actually a big fan of yours, but you shared one of my tweets. When I said black people need to stop begging the government and go and do for self out in our communities, you shared the video and called me an idiot. I didn't see anything idiotic about that statement at all.
No. So when you say do for self, like what? Mm-hmm. Explain that.
Okay, for example, here in Albany, Georgia, we complain about our school systems a lot. Many of our young men can't read. They have very horrible literacy rates. We don't have any rehab programs here for juvenile offenders. What I decided to do, I started a program 2 years ago, decided to do for self, and I started taking children into my home. I started taking custody of kids from juvenile court, and I started molding them and training them and teaching them skilled trades, etc. Now I'm 21 years old. I just purchased a school here in Albany, Georgia, to combat us being in the government-funded schools that are not teaching our children what they need to learn. So that's what I mean by do for self, simply getting up and going out and do it.
So
I beat the stereotype that I'm young, black in America, and I can't do anything because somebody's holding me down. Absolutely not.
So a question.
Teenagers went and go ahead. Me and some teenagers went and bought a school, and we just bought a school bus simply from going out and doing work. We decided to go fix our own communities. I'm not expecting anything from no politician. I'm not expecting nothing from Donald Trump, Joe Biden, or nobody. We're going to go do it for ourselves, and that's what I believe we need to be doing. I can vote, sure, but nothing's going to change in our community.
So you went to...
And that's simply what I explained. I'm just like, I don't
I posted that viral clip.
And I don't have a problem, with voting at all. Do that, but I'm not stop marketing it like voting is just gonna save the world. That's gonna fix our whole community.
Yeah, no, voting and jobs is the same on Negro song.
Yeah. So I'm just that was my point. I'm not saying we don't need the government and stuff like that. Sure, if they're gonna offer some help, cool. But I'm not waiting on them. We're gonna do for self, and that was the point. So anyway, that clip went viral, and we got so much attention. Celebrities, Rihanna started following me. I mean, it was the whole nine. It happened. And, that's when we got enough traction to it was, consistent, funding coming in all the time. And so in the process of me raising money, I started trying to go buy a school from our local school system. And we got into a long, drawn-out contract process with them. It took us about 7 to 8 months to try and purchase this school that was up for demolition, by the way. And finally, we get the contract back for them after like 7 months. And the contract states, it had like 6 funny clauses in it, but I'll tell you the main one that basically turned us off. It said the deed of conveyance shall contain a use restriction that the property cannot be used for a private or a charter school unless the school system teaches the curriculum. And I was just like, that's not what we trying to do. Like, we're trying to do our own thing. But they was like, well, we can, redline it and, redo it and all that. I'm just like, but if you're gonna give me this outright, you not gonna let me have my own stuff or whatever.
That's how America works. You never truly own it.
Yeah, so I was just like, nah, so we got into it with them for a little bit, and we had a big falling out with that, and I just canceled negotiations. And so we ended up purchasing 3 small buildings on our south side of town in Albany, Georgia. So with us purchasing those,
what's the timeline between all of this, from conception to reality?
2019 to now? Yeah, it's about 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so that June 2021, May of 2021, we purchased 40 acres of land on the south side of town, $100,000 cash. We bought that, and
that's pretty good.
Yes, very good, very good. And so then in June, we purchased 3 buildings for our school.
What was the cost of the buildings?
$70,000.
Very good.
Yep, $70,000.
I gotta move to Albany, man. What's going on, man?
Yeah,
Money sound like go Fargo.
The cost of living there is very, very low. So we purchased those 3 buildings for $70,000 cash, but they weren't, they ain't that big. We was just gonna start there. We weren't able to buy the school, so I was like, you know what, we're just gonna start somewhere because I'm not doing this whole, we're finna try and find something else. We're just gonna find what we got and we'll work right here and we'll move forward. But anyway, purchased those 3 buildings. The next month, my realtor hit me that was trying to sell us another building before, and we weren't able to raise the money for that in time. And she hit me, she said, King, there's a school downtown for sale. And I say, I've been living here my whole life. There's no school downtown for sale. Like, there's not even a school downtown. I'm like, what are you talking about? She was like, no, it is a school downtown. She was like, the old Friendship Church has a school in it. Now, I went to pre-K at this place, but I had never remembered what was in there. And I was just like, that's a church. She was like, no, it's a school with a church attached to it. So she was like, come tour it. So I went and looked at it, man, and it's 41,000 square feet, gym, cafeteria, whole 9. I mean, it's everything I need. 25 classrooms, library, chapel, whole 9, man. And I was just like,
what's the cost?
$400,000. So I said, well, man, we ain't got no money. I said, we just spent our money on this last building. And she was like, well, can you call some donors or something? And I was like, well, I wish I could. I said, but we literally been raising money for like 2 years now. And I was like, we just got these buildings. We want to start here. She was like, you can't let this go. And in my mind, I really can't, because it was everything we needed. So I jumped out, stepped out on faith. I was like, you know what? I'm going to just, I called one of my donors. And he said, okay, King. He said, I'm going to trust you. And we hadn't even got our 501c3 paperwork back yet. He said, I'm gonna trust you. He said, I'm gonna give you $20,000 to start out, because we only needed $70,000 to get in the door. So he said, I'm gonna give you $20,000 to start out. And I said, okay. So, but we need to raise $50,000. So I got on Twitter. I made a tweet. I said, listen, we need to raise $50,000 by Christmas. This was October. I said, we need to raise $50,000 by Christmas time to be able to get in this location. I posted that tweet, and we raised $50,000 in 36 hours. 36 hours. Yes.
It's a lot that I can draw from a lot that you just told me. Mostly, the strategy and the implication of utilizing technology. There's a lot of activists, community organizers, and people out there that want to do something similar, that have ideas. Right. But, you actually execute, right? But not only execute, in this digital age of social media, I talk about aggregate efficiency a lot. The amount of energy you put in based on the amount of energy you get out. Yep. You understand me? As somebody that wants to build a school, learning the strategies of how to implement, digital real estate, if you will. You understand me? And digital strategies in it is what allow us to be able to go further than we ever could have. Right. Because in old times, you just trying to get a simple GoFundMe, that probably wouldn't have went very well, because it sounds to me you was able to get 4 buildings. You understand me? Within 3 years, by utilizing social media, you understand me, and connecting your passion and your purpose to it. Right. And I think that that's something that a lot of people can learn from, just because within that, if I want to start me a school today or anything, I'm utilizing that same exact type of route that you just took. And that's why I kind of wanted to go through the numbers, because it showcases what reality is. Yep. Now, I watched a bit of your interview on Valuetainment, and at the time you said it was 1,500 donors. You understand me? How many of it is it now total?
Last time I checked, 2,258 donors down to the number.
Now, how much has the highest donor given?
My highest donor has given 50,000.
50,000.
Yeah. Well, so, two donors gave 50,000. One
so
back
50,
in the summer.
And then of course, 400,000 is that's a lot of money. Yeah. $70,000 per building, $100,000 for 40 acres. Those are amazing deals you probably ain't gonna go find in the country for real. But
Yeah.
at the same time, with 2,000 people being able to come there, you about to change the trajectory of your whole community. And that's really was the whole point that I was getting to. It's like in the way that we utilize NFT, especially when you talk about social impact or philanthropy, you know, that could have easily been a NFT project, right? Now that shit wasn't around back in those days. You feel me? It was around, but it wasn't prominent. It wasn't platforms that you can use as a strategy, and people weren't educated on it. But imagine if you did have a 2,000-3,000 piece project that allowed people to come in, buy in pieces of right what you wanted to do. And this is what represented the back end of this project.
Right.
We're going to build up some schools. And then each one of those NFTs was a representation of a school, right? Or supplies, or whatever a person wanted to give, from $300 to $50,000, depending on whatever they wanted to give.
Right.
This, to me, is the most important part of how we can utilize technology to create social impact.
Yep.
You understand me? Like, all around the world, and especially throughout America and the disenfranchised areas of America, there's people that's trying to figure out how to do exactly what you just did. But this is redevelopment of mental, physical infrastructure of the hoods of America. Whether you want to tackle the school system issues, because the school system is the most important key. Because you not talking to I talk to a lot of stubborn adults on the consistent.
Yeah, man.
You're talking to the most fertile minds where you don't have to reprogram them. If you catch them young, you don't have to wait till they later on give them a lesson by them getting shot, them being in prison, you understand me, or them just going through the war of life. And then trying to reprogram an adult mind is hard.
Yep.
You understand me? So it's very commendable, but at the same time, it's very new age. You understand me? We've seen many people try to raise money. We've seen many people try to do a lot of different things, but just not effective.
Right.
You understand me? And I think that the model that you represent is a new effective model that we can use, and it eliminates excuses. You know, because that moment you got that phone call, you could have just relented to say, no, we got 3 buildings. I took on enough responsibility.
Yep.
But knowing what you actually need to make the real impact and to complete the vision, nah, we're going to put ourselves back out there, implement the strategy, step out on faith, execute, and it happened.
Yep.
And then another part of that is, when I look at your situation, you know, unfortunately, we need a lot of, you have an ability to transmute the chaos around you, to focus directly on what your intentions are.
Yep.
Right? Even when other platforms, I'm sure, contacted you through the Roland Smith, Martin thing, because they knew that they could use that. Number one, is heightened and went viral, but also black men going at each other anytime. It's something we love to highlight. So tell me why you don't like this black man. Tell me y'all differences. And it's like, well, let me focus on this school right now.
I said I made sure not to play into that. You know, I've reached out to, you know, Brother Roland multiple times, you know, trying to do a partnership because.
And how did those talks go?
I think, you know, it's still a little hostility there, you know, just
I don't think Roland liked me much. I ain't never had any much to say, but
for one thing, you know, I appreciate him just even allowing me to come on the platform, because
how did that come about?
Well, originally on Twitter, you know, I was following our brother Roland on Twitter, and you know, I was a fan of it. I watched this show.
That was
and stuff
OG
like that.
At first.
Yeah, he was OG. You know, I'm just like, it's Roland Martin. You know, like
I was
that.
just playing that.
Yeah, he was like an OG. That's Roland Martin. You know, and you know, I made a tweet about black people doing for self, and I was just like, you know, we need to start doing for self in our community and stop waiting on, you know, the government, stuff like that. But he shared it and called me an idiot, and I was just like, how am I an idiot for saying that we should start doing for self?
That's the same brother who has an issue with white companies not giving him money for black media and spreading that budget. But the idea of doing for self is that, yes, we can wait on them to do the right thing, or we can do the right thing ourselves, right? It's a simple message that all leaders throughout time have had, right? And that old Negro spiritual dependency model ain't never worked for us. Otherwise, you wouldn't be needed to do it yourself. You wouldn't be needed to create the school. You would be able to easily go get you some government funding for it. But we know that they give us a loan to go to their institution. You understand me? Predatory loans, often with high interest rates. You understand me? But they won't give you a loan to start a business, to start a school, right? So the model to do for self, you know, and we don't believe in that whole Jim Crow idea of separate young generation from old, so we try not to fall into that. But there's just certain people that don't deserve a platform in our community. You understand me? And I say that because anytime there's a young man doing anything, I don't care if you went to go see Trump, I don't care whatever our political differences may be, if we was to get into the meat of that, that shit don't matter to me.
Don't
The
matter
fact
to me
that you're
either.
changing young black men's lives on a consistent and daily basis, there shouldn't be an old man, a young woman, black woman, any color shouldn't say shit about that. They should just be in full support. Right? But at the same time, sometimes you need that just to get on those platforms. That's how America works with the chaos energy. Because if you didn't have that argument, look how so many other opportunities wouldn't open up.
Absolutely.
Right?
I agree.
And you know, it's dangerous to create situations of clout to convert that into percentages of benefit. But at the end of the day, that's how America works.
Absolutely.
You understand me? We driven off chaos, we driven off violence, we driven off ignorance. Rather than saying that, hey, I have something positive going on, support this. Yeah, I ain't got time for that.
Yeah, I'll say as much as man. You know, I tell people all the time, you know, who are trying to get, you know, where I am or where I'm going. I said, y'all have no idea how many times I had to ride around my city, you know, looking at abandoned buildings and then calling the people who own the buildings just for them to say, no, you can't have it, even though it's beat up and broke down, trying to find stuff for my school, or just even trying to make ends meet and things like that, or trying to promote the program to people, or going to these different conferences, paying money, trying to speak to somebody and tell them what I'm doing, and nobody want to listen to you and stuff like that. Kind of reminds me of Kanye Doc when he playing All Falls Down to everybody and nobody ain't listening. Like, he know it's a banger. So it's like me, I knew this was a thing that I hadn't seen being done before, and I'm like, especially not with this model, and I'm like, I know it's gonna work. I'm like, so I'm gonna keep pushing it because I know it's the truth.
Peace family, is 19 Keys tapping in. Do you have the knowledge to be able to teach your child cryptocurrency, how to build wealth? Do you have the knowledge to be able to teach them NFTs? See, I know a lot of you all think that you love your children, but I believe that love is an act and it's a duty. A lot of you all think that you love yourself, but you're depriving yourself knowledge that you can be utilizing in order to invest and live a better life. And that same knowledge can help produce a better life for your child. Now, if you learn this simple information by taking a few courses, you understand me, you have the ability to be able to teach, discuss it, and learn a whole new language, which also builds you a whole new life. So therefore, the next time that you stare your child in the eye, you can actually be honest when you say that you love them, because you know you're doing every single thing to set them up for the future. Make sure you tap into Infinite Wealth Strategies. We'll teach you financial literacy, we'll put you in the community, teach you how to write books, teach you how to produce a book for your child if you got one, teach you how to set up your portfolio, how to set up your trust, and a multitude of other different things that is involved in it. Take your first step in building a better future. Join Infinite Wealth Strategies and become a strategist of wealth. Tap in. So is the goal duplication?
Absolutely. So eventually, after we get our feet wet this year and open up, you know, another grade next year, I do plan to push it around not just our city, but go, you know, slowly start to branch out around Georgia and then, you know, eventually across the United States.
Do you have anything virtual as a component
That's what I want to implement. So many parents do ask all the time, is there a virtual way for you to do the book club? Is there a virtual way for you to do this and that? You know, and right now I have a team to just create all of that at the moment, but of course we're working toward getting virtual for students who are just not able to be there.
I would like probably to help. I'm always trying to fit. Right now it's like, even with myself, because what I hear what you're doing, I wouldn't have the time to do it unless I put together a team to manage everything. Right?
Yeah, because I have a lot on my plate already, and then trying to add something else, it's a lot.
But at the same time, I know that's a vertical for a lot of corporations and a lot of different people who do have money that would love to get involved. Like one of the models that we're playing with right now is just learn to earn, or earn to learn rather. Teaching people, you understand me, the right skill sets, but at the same time getting everybody else to fund that, right? And I think that that's a model that can work specifically with what you got going on. There's millions of dollars for that particular vertical, but taking it from what you're doing in Albany, Georgia as a successful model, because of course that needs to be focused there so that the lives are changed there. But then duplicating that from a digital landscape, I think is super key. Because what I see the future of this, man, is gonna be amazing, because, you know, we have Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey created that, what's the program? Science, STEM rather. Science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics. But he did that because he didn't want the brand of black men and women to be ignorant. You understand me? He wanted to prove that we weren't just niggas. You feel me? And so he created that STEAM model, and of course that was implemented throughout America. The same way the Breakfast Club from the Black Panthers implemented all throughout America. So black men in this country have a long history, you know, of transforming the education,
Right.
you understand me, institution in this country, because we see what's wrong, because we see what doesn't benefit us.
Right.
You know, and when, you know, I was with the Reform Alliance, and speaking with their presidents and just kind of going over some of the statistics, you know, that black men fall under. Specifically, black men are like the worst in all categories.
Yep.
Murder, you understand me, disease, you know, poverty, like all of those rates. And right now what we deal with is that every other minority takes the place of the black man as if those same statistics don't exist. And so all of a sudden it's like, this the new minority, this the new movement, but we still suffering with the same problems at higher rates than anybody else.
Yep.
Right? And so specifically for you to have a young boys, the education is an intervention. You understand me? Before it's needed and while it's happening. So like to grab somebody and take them out the environment and give them a better one, that's going to create the new black man of the future. You understand me? That now can, you know, resist being a part of those statistics because they got a different mental environment and
Exactly.
fortitude, right?
Even setting the example for them. I know a lot of people, you know, pay attention to me and stuff like that, but I'm just like, you know, I have to set an example for them too. I'm always like having to watch what I'm doing all the time, and even telling my boys about my personal failures and things like that. Sure, it may not hit the timeline or something like that, but I tell all my boys everything that goes on.
So
You know,
transparency.
literally, they know everything there is to know about me. They can't even like if something were to come out or something like that. My boys already we already know that. Mr. King already told us.
Yeah.
You know, because I want them to see, you know, life gonna happen. You know, then I also have mistakes that I've made that I'm gonna tell them about. Like, listen, don't go do that same crap or whatever. This happened to me, and this is what went wrong. This is what I don't want to happen to you. You know, so things happen. You know, and I know.
But it also ain't about being perfect.
Right.
I think that the beauty of it is that being able to allow young leaders that happen to be in that leadership position, like the idea of leaders is like, you know, end of the day, I get that all to Allah, man. That's the only real leader.
Right.
You understand me? And we try to follow directions as much as we can when we get a call, but it's never about the person.
Right.
You understand me? It's about the principles and
Yep.
what they represent and what they embody. I don't expect no human being on this planet Earth to be perfect.
Yep.
You understand me? You can tell me something about King today, it don't matter to me. You understand me? Because the principles he represents and the impact he has and how that's going to carry on throughout time.
Yep.
I think we're giving too much of a burden. The good ones in our society are giving too much of a burden for perfection.
Right.
When it's an impossibility.
Yep.
And that's often so that everybody else judges them instead of assist them, counsel them, help them.
Exactly.
You understand me? To carry on whatever mission that they had tied to them in the first place.
Exactly.
You know, it's like,
it don't change the mission.
Yeah.
Things gonna happen. You're gonna do stuff that is every single person. Like anybody tries to come say something about this, I'm like, listen, bro, I don't care about that. I don't care. What does that got to do with what he did?
Yeah.
You know, or even that whole, you know, every time Martin Luther King Day crew come around, they come around. Oh, well, he stepped out of this. I'm like, what that got to do
That ain't got nothing
with
to
what
do
this
with
man
it.
did?
You
I
know what
don't
I'm
care
saying?
about his personal life. His personal business ain't got nothing to do
we
with
know
me.
he wanted integration anyway.
It's
so it ain't got-
especially, I'm saying, especially, you know, grown men. One thing I don't like is grown men in another grown man personal life. I'm like, bro, like that ain't.
But
that's,
you know, we living in
come
the
on, bro.
emasculation era, so
Yeah.
you know, the taking that strength away from men, period. Right? This is something that, you know, we talk about just men, period. When we talk about the emasculation of black men, I seen it was a sister, I think Terry Vaughn is her name,
I know that
and she
person.
asked the question, what can black women do to help with the emasculation of black men?
Yeah, I said Tashina Arnold posted that question
Yeah.
the other day on Twitter. Yep.
And it might have been her. I might have just had those two confused, actually. So a lot of people attacked her instead of actually just answering the question.
Yep.
Because people act like emasculation isn't real. You can look up the definition of what emasculation
Oh, they
is.
said it's rooted in misogyny and homophobia and
But-
all that, all the buzzwords.
You got to ask, first of all, don't ask people who the problem is not directly connected to. Ask black men if it's real.
Yep.
You understand me? Because if we say it's real, you can't ignore what we feel and what we think.
Yep.
You understand me? Because part of that is the emasculation itself. That what you feel is not valid. You don't have the power to make space for yourself in this world and talk about your issues as if they real. So it's at the end of the day, a black woman asking what should she do is already doing a lot.
Yep.
Because everybody else ignores it as if it doesn't exist.
Yep.
And if we can look at the statistics that are lined up, of how many of us are going to prison or dying or killing each other, murder, there's an issue there. That's not the masculation of black men, that's the emasculation. Because ones that step into their strength and their power are not going to fall by those weak statistics.
Absolutely.
So you're talking about wanting black men in the household, that's the masculation. There's a lack of black teachers throughout America. You understand me? That's the one area that women ain't got to fight for equality, because there's always been women teachers, because white men seen it back in the day. They said that it was a woman's job. They looked at it as a feminine position.
Right.
So therefore, it always been a low-paying job. So therefore, you're not getting the proper funding.
Right.
The young boys are not getting the proper leadership, and that in turn affects communities for eons. So it's like the emasculation is talking about the restoration of putting things back in its proper order and balance. Every issue that you have with a man can lead back to how he's been emasculated.
Yep.
You understand me?
Almost
Us
every
killing each
time.
other is an emasculation thing.
That's even because in how, we get angry. See, granddad taught, growing up, you don't argue standing up. You do certain stuff, granddad taught you growing up. He taught you how to be mad. When you saw granddad get mad, he just loved.
He said, "Don't argue standing up."
Nah, he just taught little stuff,
Why, 'cause you go punch somebody, throw
I
something?
don't know what.
I kind of get it, but OGs be having that wisdom.
Bro,
boy.
granddad got so much wisdom, man. But yeah, my uncles them teach me, little stuff. I don't understand why they say it sometimes until it hit me.
Right,
and I'm
right.
just like, okay, I get it now.
Right.
But every kid ain't got that. I had a village of men. My mom, my first stepdad, he taught me how to work on cars and work on houses. He taught me how to paint cars. He taught me how to weld. We shot animals. We skinned them, whatever. He was a country guy.
Yeah.
Or whatever. My
So
mom.
you went through rites of passage.
Yeah, but then my second stepdad, because my mom always said my first stepdad, he's a great father, horrible husband. It's the funniest thing ever. But then my second stepdad, he taught me this side of me, a shirt and tie, how to give an interview type stuff. He was a detective on the First 48, Detective Hardaway in DeKalb County. But he taught me this side, how to put on a suit, how to tie your tie, how to, be this person. So it's like I got the best of both, where I can go home and go build a shed in the backyard and go feed the dogs, go have some chickens and all that. Then I can go out and put on a suit, and make things happen. But every kid ain't got those men. So usually I tell the boys all the time about how they get angry, and I always compare it sometimes, like, I always compare it to, like, I guess they call them bad bees on Instagram, like that. And I'm just like, why are you like clapping back at me? Like, I'm like, what you clapping back for? If I go tell you, if I say stop talking while I'm talking, and I make them go do high knees or something like that, they're like, oh man, but Mr. King, I'm like, stop. Why are you clapping back at me like you an Instagram model or something?
Right.
Stop clapping back. I watched you do it wrong. Shut your mouth and go do it or whatever. And it's just little stuff like that, or how they get angry. I'm like, you can't get the same anger your mama get, because we can kill somebody. I'm like, you will kill somebody. So they be like, well, why would he kill somebody over stepping on his shoe or something so small? I'm like, watch how his mom blows up. And I hate to get into this conversation, because they're like, well, what you trying to say about women? I'm like, we know, like, I know how my mom gets angry or whatever, and my mom gets like this fireball, my grandma too just get this fireball angry, but they not gonna do nothing. But if I get that type of angry, I'm gonna wanna kill you.
Yeah, you wanna release.
Yeah, I'm gonna wanna like knock somebody
And
out
also
or
the
do
consequences are more.
Right, exactly.
You understand me?
Yeah.
Like, if a woman kind of push you and you push her, that's two different forces.
Absolutely.
You might actually be able to cause blunt trauma. You understand me?
You might could kill her.
That's different.
Yep.
Rather than she push you and it's like, all right, chill out, you're doing too much. Bro.
Exactly.
So it's like we have different responsibilities with knowing our own physicality and our strength. We got testosterone.
And dad has to teach you that, or even like a young girl growing up without her dad and never seeing a man be strong, like seeing him pick up a sofa or whatever. So it'll be easy for her to try a man growing up, like want to fight him or something, because she ain't never seen no man be strong before, but her growing up seeing her dad carrying, her brothers and sisters on the arm, or seeing him be strong walking in the house, or, raise his voice or whatever, she'll be reluctant to try a guy, because she's seen her dad be strong her whole life.
Yeah.
But for her, ain't never had no dad, or never seen no man like get serious or nothing like that. She'll go slap a man or go beat him up or whatever, but then, oh my God, or she might get killed or whatever, because she ain't see her daddy be strong, like little small stuff like that.
Let me ask you something on it, back to what you said a little earlier. So like having two stepfathers, how does that affect, your ideas, you understand me, around raising other young men? You said, what did the first stepfather do?
First stepfather's country guy.
Country guy.
He taught me how to, have animals. Like we grew all our own food. We had fruit trees. We killed animals, skinned them. We grew our own seasonings in the backyard.
Yeah.
Anything we wanted to eat, we went outside and picked it. We built
live
our
off the
sheds.
land.
Yeah, I said we built sheds. We built our dog houses. We built our chicken pens. We built our rabbit pens. We built everything. We welded our own grills. We painted our own cars. We did everything like that. He taught me all that practical stuff I know how to do with my hands. He taught me that.
Okay. And then your second stepfather, you said he was on First 48?
Yeah, he was a detective. He's retired now, but he's a shirt and tie wearing guy. Can go in a courtroom and handle the court. Like this guy.
So that's where you get your poise from.
That's where I get my poise from. My
How
interview
does,
skills.
as black men, how does that affect the way you look at police officers?
I don't. This is my thing, and people ask that all the time. I think it's bad people in all jobs. It's terrible doctors, terrible police, etc. But all in all, I don't think the whole police force, needs to be abolished or nothing like that. I don't think so. I think if we got rid of all the police right now, and who we gonna call? Because we ain't not here with our own,
I think the idea
men in the
was
community.
defunding rather than abolishment.
And I think even with the defunding piece, I still don't think personally that is the complete answer. And
Well, the defunding was about divestment of funds that are overly allocated to a force.
Right.
You understand me? That's not effective.
Exactly.
Right? So, I don't know what the allocation is in Albany, Georgia. You understand me? But
And it's different for every city, because like our city,
different.
we're completely understaffed. Like one night we had 4 officers on patrol at night, and we like #1 in crime for Georgia. So like sometimes it's really honestly for where it's at, because we honestly do, even the black people to tell you, like we need more police.
So I
where
think
we
that's
live.
probably where we lazy at though, because the answer to, bringing the crime rate down is never more police.
Absolutely
because it don't
not.
work anywhere.
Yeah,
they
yeah,
run
I don't agree
armies
with that,
in
yeah.
Chicago. They have a standing army, one of the largest armies in the world in New York. So like bringing more police is never the answer.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
It's the development of the communities and the environment.
Developing their mind.
But I don't think that there's no cities, well, I don't know every city, you understand me? But when you're talking about major cities that deal with major problems, because I'm born in St. Louis, raised in Oakland, so
Right.
we always in major crime cities, right? And both of those places have some of the most corrupt cops,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like St. Louis is some of the most disrespectful cops and crooked cops.
Even where I live,
Just
yep,
on
yep.
record. Like it's just certain cops that are famous for being crooked,
Right.
putting drugs on people, killing people in the neighborhood.
Right.
That's just a normal. So the idea of like, let's put more of them, hell no. But the ideas of creating schools and putting money into the beautification of those areas and creating programs so that if you take that allocation of millions of dollars towards teaching people skill sets so
Yep.
that they can earn, you understand me, and make a living,
Yep.
and decreasing the environments of food deserts and things of that nature, that changes the environment.
Absolutely.
Like factors that change the
You have
environment.
to fix the mind. The scripture says, as a man thinketh, so is he. So we teaching people how to think or what to think or, different ways of thinking, we can definitely change the outlook of our communities. As far as immediate things, I definitely say, regardless, like where I live, like we have 4 to 6 officers on patrol one night. We just absolutely need more, because people, not even just for criminal stuff, people call the police for other things too. And for
But see, then
11 to 15 minutes response time is terrible.
I think
for somewhere
that's probably
I
where
live.
we need. So I understand the idea, right? But it's like I seen in certain cities. I think it's San Francisco where they rolled out, instead of police come, health workers come.
Yeah.
That deal with mental health issues
I
and
agree
things
with
of
that
that
too,
nature.
yeah.
But that's why I say we lazy.
Right.
Because the
'Cause we don't
answer
wanna
is
actually put-
police, which
yeah.
are mostly undertrained people that
Yep.
just throw on the
They
badge,
definitely
getting
need
the
more
job.
training. Yep.
They're not intelligent. They're not trained.
Nope.
None of those things. So they're not going to be as confident on the job. So they're
Right.
going to make blunders, mistakes, and issues. They don't know the law. None of those
Yep.
things. So most
They
of
don't
them
know the
are
law. That's the craziest
undertrained
thing.
and
Yep.
got issues. It's like, if we really want to solve a problem, you got to look at the root of it.
Yep.
What causes it?
Yep.
Right? And nowhere in America you can say, well, this was the cause of the problem and the police was the solution.
Nope. Yep.
No, the police are they're security guards.
Exactly.
That protect the corporation of the United States. You understand me? And their property and try to manage you. And then if you don't, they're going to throw you in somebody else's property
Yep.
under the 13th Amendment, and now you're just a slave.
Yep.
That's the literal concept of the reality of America.
That's it. Yes, sir.
So, let's say that if the city said, well, we don't need more police officers, we need more King Randalls, we need more schools. Let's divest money into building schools.
Right.
Right? This is how we start to reform the community. We lazy, when it comes to movement, revolution, because we
Right.
usually take ideas that are predecessors before that, that we looked up to or we aspire to, and we try to duplicate that in our time, but not utilizing the new tools and resources, or studying more effective ways to go about, eliminating these challenges that we have.
Right.
You feel me? Like, it's a sad thing when mostly everybody you know from your old hometown is dead or in jail.
Right.
That creates trauma. Average Americans sometimes don't ever have to get into a fight.
Right.
You understand me? There's some people that don't know about what it's like to miss a meal or to grow up with rodents in their environment or roaches and things of that nature.
Right.
Or walking outside and not knowing that you might get shot at or killed. You understand me? Coming back or having a friend that was murdered.
Right.
So it's like there's a lot of traumatic challenges that a young boy goes throughout their life. You understand me? That the rest of America just know nothing about. So like if I see an angry black man, I can understand why you angry.
Right.
You understand me? Like you're supposed to be in the so-called land of dreams, but you live a nightmare.
Right.
You understand me? And those the representation of the two sides of America, right? And so often if you privileged, then that privilege don't allow you to understand people who aren't privileged. But that's the privilege itself.
Right.
So when a person has a perspective about something and they say, listen, well, I think it should be this way, or we face this challenges, and the other person be like, well, I don't see it that way. Yes,
and I honestly
because you
think-
lived a better life.
Right, and I think it's important that we have conversations. That's why I love conversations, because it's extremely important, because you teach people who don't know anything about you, or they assume things about you, and then you can actually go tell them, no, this is what's actually happening. Like, kind of like I was explaining you off camera about going to CPAC and things like that. And people are like, why are you going on Fox News and things like that? I'm like, bro, you should want me to go and talk to these people. I'm like, it's important that I go talk to them, because now these people are understanding now, because they like, oh, I ain't never heard nobody tell me, about the black community like this before. I'm like, no, I need to go tell them this stuff, because then they're in support now. Now these people are actually listening to what's being said.
Do you
because,
think that Fox News are in support, or the constituents that you reach through Fox News are in support?
I wouldn't say Fox News is Fox News, just like CNN and CNN, they support themselves. Lawrence Jones is the contributor who always brings me on. He's another black man who always makes sure to highlight other black people that are doing good things in the community. But he's a Fox News contributor, so people call him Silla. I'm like, but all he do is bring black people on to go talk about what they're doing to that, audience. But I've been on CNN too and things like that. But yeah, speaking to that audience and then going to different events like CPAC and things like that and explaining to people, no, this is what's going on in the black community that you're not hearing about, because they'll have all these different stereotypes and things like that. I'm like, no, this is what's actually happening. And they listen, they're just like, I didn't know that, but now they can understand and not be racist or whatever like that, because now they are understanding, they're listening. Half of them you just need to have a conversation with, they'll listen.
I think most people just think that it's to no avail, that it doesn't actually have any real progress or change. It's like,
I'll say,
because it's like, let's say this, when you said about the children, right? The children, you need them to have in a boarding school environment, because as soon as they go back home, they go back to their vices. So it's
Right.
like, they around King Randall, they getting a little consciousness, they getting a little bit. As soon as they go back to home, the environment of racism is a dominant frequency that gets them back into that culture.
Right.
Right? Because I look at, like I've been telling people lately, like race is a subscription to culture and values. Right? So that, like, when you call yourself black specifically, right? Then you are saying that I subscribe to the culture of other people connected to that same frequency, those norms, those values over there. And then some people call themselves African American, right? But the American part is always the part that we've been robbed of. And then the African's like, well, you don't know where you're from over there. So we say, well, let me channel that energy that I know I'm connected to original source, and I'll call that black, right? And so I say all that to say this, is that when we are making our decisions about political alliances, where we go strategically, there's people that are on the opposite side of you always have a slither of truth when
course.
they're in criticism.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Because it's not what they saying is completely out of tune. It's just that the perspective and the strategy that you have is not aligned with the people that you are using. Let's just say that, right? Because, at the end of the day, you gotta be spooks and messiahs. You understand me? The spooks are the ones who sit beside the door, get the information, bring it back to the people.
Yep.
The messiahs are the ones who got to be in front and actually deliver that information. But everybody got to be in different positions across the planet. And when people hear this frequency and this transmission, I want black people in all areas. I don't care what you claim to be in front of the world. I want you to remember this, dog. You understand me? That you can be with us even if we don't know you for us.
Yep.
Because there's things that you can do behind the scenes, there's resources, there's access that you have, and you can play your role. But if you actively decide to be in a role, in a position, and that you can benefit us and you don't use it intentionally, then you against us.
Right.
And that's it. I don't care how melanated you are, how many people in your line of descent, ancestors, none of that matters unless that you are intentional and adding to the diaspora in some progressive manner based on the position that you in.
Yep, and it's always gonna bear witness, you know, who's for the community and who's not, no matter what side of the aisle you on or whatever. I always talk about dual domination, and that's something I speak about all the time. That's operating on whoever in office, I'm gonna use them for whatever I need to use them for to get what I need for my community, period.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, I'm like, I don't care what you got to say, I'm going to go talk to whoever could get me some resources for my community, as long as I know ain't nothing behind it or, you know, no ulterior motives or nothing like that, and I know how to govern myself. Trust me to govern myself while I get this stuff for my community, and that's what I do. So of course people gonna say stuff, well, you this and you that, you this and that. I'm like, yeah, but what are you doing to assist or make it so I don't have to go talk to nobody or something like that? So,
no, that's a super key right there.
yeah,
like,
I'm just like, you gotta assist, or even with like police. So I think 2 years ago we had this white van that was chasing children at bus stops in my hometown. And at first we thought it was like somebody playing a game until some kids was like, nah, this white van following us at these bus stops every morning. So our women was on Facebook like making prayers and, oh my God, everybody, you know, like everybody was panicking, all our women. And so I made a video and I was just like, I don't understand why it's so many of us men here in Albany that can't just get up in the morning and go walk our kids to the bus stop in the morning and make sure, you know, stuff is going okay. I said, it's enough of us that they ain't got no job from 6 to 7 o'clock in the morning to go stand at the bus stop for an hour with these kids and make something happen. So it went locally viral, and man, like the next day, every bus stop was full of men everywhere. It was full of men. We had us a little crew together. We had got our yellow vests, and some of us would ride around. We would ride around and just make sure all the stops were safe, make sure we didn't see no vans. This lady, it was a whole bunch of ladies actually. They had made them a little group to support us for going to, you know, watch the bus stops. I was like, it was so cool to see women happy that men were being men.
Absolutely.
They got us coffee in the morning. They bought our reflective vests. They make sure we had what we needed in the morning. And we did that for like 3 weeks straight. And then until somebody actually saw the white van, man, and ran them off. We didn't have to do that again. You know, but I wanted to keep that actually repetitive. But that's little stuff we can do. I'm like, there's no reason that our women is online, like making prayers and all that stuff. When we could just go answer that and go stand out and be that God and go out there and make that happen for our community. And it was a beautiful thing to see, and to see it, you know, get ran off, you know, by one of the men, because they called and it was like, hey, bro, we just ran into the white van. You know, he just sped off some old white dude or whatever, but never saw him again. Kids never had no issues, you know. And those men, like, it was just crazy to see all those men at the bus stops with these kids. Like, they out there in their pajamas, whatever, they out there, you know. And it was great to see all the men riding around in their cars with the little reflectors we had on our cars to let people know who we was riding around. I mean, it was a beautiful thing to see, you know. But the little stuff like that is what we can do to even alleviate, you know, some of the pressure maybe on police or whatever like that. I think our community should be a together thing. Like me, I tell people all the time, I'd rather a police that was raised in my community and, you know, police in my community.
I don't think that's the only way it should be.
Yeah, I think if like me raising these kids, if I got a kid that want to be a police officer, I'm not going to discourage him from doing that. I'm going to raise him to be,
I think the naivety
man.
of it, though, I think the reality of it is that we believe that police officers are actually there to help us, though, too.
I agree with that.
You understand me? And I don't think that the system I know that the system is not currently made in the way that we wish it was. You understand me? They have.
And honestly, what you're saying that even people would think the opposite, but white people agree.
Yeah, they know. I mean, they be in upper arms more than we are.
Absolutely.
You understand me? The
They
news
do not.
spin it when we do.
One thing about them, they do not like government tyranny. They will tell you that real quick.
Oh yeah, but listen, we in April.
They will say that to her real quick.
April is, you know, at the time that this is shot, this is in April, right? And April is one of the biggest months for terrorism. And that terrorism started from the Waco incident, trying to live sovereign against the land, and the government said, no, you can't
Oh yeah, I
do
remember.
that.
I'll say my dad, my current stepfather, had worked with the FBI a little bit, and he was giving me a little information on the Waco incident. He wasn't working with them at the time. Of course, he had to work with them to solve different murders and stuff like that. But at that time, you know, he was explaining to me some of it was a tragedy for them, and they don't like to talk about it, you know, at the bureau. And he was
Because all of the kids and stuff that died in there. By the
exactly,
fire.
and so they don't never like to bring up Waco or nothing, and then nobody ever really talks about it. And I'm like, that was a huge tragedy. All because y'all bothering folk. No matter what was going on out there, y'all didn't really know what was going on because nobody had no cameras there, no undercover people. Y'all just went in there, hot, and that was it.
And from that incident, it sparked so many other ones, right? Because Timothy McVeigh was said to be in attendance that day, and that's where he sparked his anti-government stances, right? So he was then inspired by somebody else who tried to blow up the Oklahoma building. Then he decided to go do it successfully, right? And then he inspired the Columbine shooting. You understand me? So the Columbine shooter said they was inspired by him.
A lot of it just
right.
Yep.
So you got this timeline, and he was a part of a militia during that time. Part of that same militia that we've seen over the past year. He was a part of that. But there's a linear timeline that we can see in American history to where white folks are more anti-government than us, anybody.
They talk about
insurrection on the Capitol steps. We see that,
bro. When we listen, and like I don't care what nobody said. I told black people this. I said, for one, I don't think that they was wrong for that. I'll say that.
Me and Michael Shee talked about that last time.
I think while we talking about the police, while y'all burning down your own community, that's where y'all should have been.
Yeah.
At the Capitol, at the actual government. I said honestly, y'all should have joined them with your own movement.
I think the idea was the fact that, well, first we know that it would have turned into a bloodbath.
Oh yeah, it'd be
black
different.
people.
Yeah.
So we don't in this country, black people don't really feel we have rights.
Fred Hampton is one of my big inspirations too. I love Fred Hampton. He was killed at 21 years old because of his linking so many people
his
together.
ability to bring black, white, brown,
Dr. King,
everybody together.
Dr. King, same thing. They was cool with him up until he was finna start some type of insurrection type thing.
And through economics.
And they couldn't do anything with him bringing everybody up there. Like they could deal with just black people because they maybe just gonna shoot them and beat them up or whatever. But he like, oh nah, you bringing white folks up here too and Hispanic folks up here too, and like, okay, you gotta go.
Right.
I'm like, that's when he had to go.
Right.
Like they was fine with him, with the black people and just marching and all that. But when he was trying to, come for some paper and go to the government because they was taking 1 million men to Washington to go camp out there.
Oh yeah. No, they ain't had none of that.
They weren't finna have that, man. But I'm like, if we could make some type of movement in the same manner, and I think that's the one thing I do love about my platform is that I have my following is so diverse. When I went to London, I had a big, following over there, and I got followers in Australia, India, China, all these people, support us from everywhere, but they all agree with the same message. And I say the same stuff that we talk about all the time. I share my Malcolm videos. I talk about, the pro-black stuff, whatever. And these people don't be agreeing with what I be disagreeing with what I be saying.
Oh no,
and
no.
I be like,
all across the planet Earth, the people are dissatisfied with government power.
Exactly. They
People
always
are
talk about
dissatisfied
big
with
government.
oligarchy power, totalitarianism. I think everywhere you go across the planet Earth, there's going to be a line of dissatisfaction that you can reach directly into the hearts of the people and saying that, isn't this our issue?
Yeah, but that's part of the reason why I'm doing the march at the end of this month, because I want to bring men of different races, different religions, different creeds or whatever, because most of us don't disagree with a whole lot. And honestly, I think Dr. King was onto something, and Fred Hampton too. Why did they end them so quick after linking there? Even Malcolm, like when Malcolm went on his whole, okay, well, let me link everybody up real quick. Okay, time for you to go.
Yeah.
Like they can deal with you just doing black people because they feel like they can control us to a point. Once you start getting everybody, together or whatever. So like looking at my following, I was like, I want to do something and bring all these different men together because most of us agree on the same things. Now, if we have actionable items after this, and that's the point, there we're going to have actionable items together, togetherness, and I'm just like, I don't see nobody stopping that,
Nah, that's the
like all
idea.
these men getting together and then bringing, people from my platform to yours and Brother Ben X and whatever, Brother Reza, all these people, like, we all agree with the same things because as I have been across the aisle, they ain't really saying too much different. Dr. Umar and Candace Owens be saying some of the same stuff all the time, bro. And I be like, y'all saying the same stuff, even though y'all talking about, y'all don't like the pro-black word.
That's the danger of the politics. But that's just the choice of politics, though, is you take some of the most greatest communicators, especially in the black community, and you use them as pawns for your message. And then you keep them divided from actually connecting with each other by giving them different flags.
Exactly.
This is how it works. Like
and
right now,
I won't do it.
They have wars going on in Ethiopia with Tigray and all these different things. And I'm talking to a sister out in London, and she said, well, you know, one of the ways that they got us was that they allowed everybody to nationalize, create their own ethnicities and flags. So you go from being under one central flag to now there's hundreds of them.
Yep.
And now you Democrat, now I'm Republican.
Exactly.
Right?
And I don't
now
identify, man. I'm like, don't do that.
I'm blood, I'm Crip, I'm this, that, I'm third. And all these flags divides us. And at the same time, there's somebody controlling us. They're benefiting the most from all of this, but we have small differences,
And
you understand me, that keep
gotta-
us divided from ever fighting the real issue. So for me, it's about, you know, the elimination of the flags that we carry.
Right.
Number one of, you know, it's like, I'm not Republican or Democrat. There's no way I could ever claim any
neither.
political status
I tell people all the time, I'm
in
like,
America.
bro,
That's ridiculous.
I'm like, bro, don't do it. I'm like, I have no idea why we do that. I'm like, you need to get from whoever what you need. I said, secondly, if y'all gonna talk about lesser of two evils, really look at lesser of two evils.
It's not never a lesser two evil. It's just
Jesus.
another evil. You
Exactly.
understand me? It's like when you look at any one of these administrations, you're gonna find evil in it.
Every
And the
last one of
question
them.
of it is that whether you voted for him or not, a good person does good. You're not gonna say, well, you didn't vote for me, you're not in my constituency, so I can't do good for you.
Right.
That's what an evil person does.
I said, or even because somebody decided to vote for somebody I can't be your friend or you did this. I'm like,
No, that's silly. That's
dumb
stupid.
and
That's
silly,
more division,
but
and there's
it's
no
more division.
intelligence in it.
That's why I don't talk about that stuff, man. I'm like, bro, I don't get into who I voted for, blah, blah. I may say little anecdotal things here and there just to get people to look at stuff, you know, whatever. But other than that, man, I just stick to, you know, what I do with my children and things. But that politics stuff, man, it will drive people insane, or even just little stuff. Like I remember, I love Brother Tariq Nasheed, man, awesome dude. And, you know, I had my kids watch Hidden Colors and stuff before, but I remember when I first went viral, he was one of the first people to speak out against me, you know, because my stepfather, you know, worked with the FBI. He was like, oh, he has to be an agent, you know, and stuff like that.
Are you an agent?
No. I'm like, dude, I've probably done more for my black community, like unknown, you know, and I do stuff for my community all the time. I'm just like, that what my stepdad, you know, working with, if not in the FBI, he working with the FBI, you know, solve murders and stuff like that. You know, of course he's a detective, so he ain't had no choice or whatever. I'm like, but that doesn't make me an agent or, you know, telling people I'm not from America, you know, and stuff. I'm like, I was born in Albany, Georgia, born and raised, so were my parents. So like my dad was born in Miami, mom was born in Albany, and then the rest of my family, we track our generations all the way down. We have our whole ancestry from America, you know, so, but, you know, just little stuff like that. And I didn't hold it against them because I know that's what, you know, how that works with their platforms and things like that. But I was just like, why can't we have conversations? You know, we can talk about it or whatever. I said, he'll come and talk about it. I said, they're like, bro, I don't work with no FBI. He said, I mean, I'm not in the FBI. He like, I work with them. He was like, but I'm not like, you know, in the FBI and like that, where we just out here trying to hurt people and stuff. I'm like, I'm just working with kids, bro. I'm like, what would the FBI? Oh, he's helping black children learn how to read. You know, what we gonna? That don't make no sense. I'm just like, some stuff just don't be adding up, you know. But that didn't turn me off from him. I just said, I think we could just have a conversation about it eventually one day, you know, and make that happen. But that's a part of the division piece for me, because some people now, you know, nowadays still come and be like, oh, well, Tariq Nasheed said you was an agent, you know, so what's up there about your dad being in the FBI? I'm like, my stepdad, he's retired for one. All he does now is go on vacation with my mama all day, every day. Like they always gone somewhere or whatever. So they barely even be paying me any attention. Do
you think it's because it may stop you from having any radical ideology outside, you know, that scope? Because, you know, we know that the FBI, you know, they formed their first task to watch after Marcus Garvey, right?
Yep.
And they have decades of history, you understand me, of destroying, right?
COINTELPRO is
black leaders.
Yep, COINTELPRO is
destroying,
yep.
murdering, and setting up assassinations within the black community. So that means that if you're going to be a prominent voice and figure of Rise, then you will be on their list of targets based on a history of operations.
Of course, that come with the territory.
Yeah.
That come with the territory, and most people know me. I've been saying radical stuff, especially when I was a teenager. I used to be even more radical then. The stuff I said when I was a teenager was crazy. I used to be saying all type of stuff or whatever, and that's when he was still working with them. So at that point, I'm just like, man, if they're gonna go send somebody, they're gonna send somebody anyway. I don't care who it may be. It could be your own mama, if for all I care. Because usually every assassination and stuff like that always be an inside job. It always got something to do with your people. So usually it'd be the people close to you, somebody you got right next to you all the time, just like with Dr. King and who helped him die. I followed that whole story, and it was almost all the people that was in his main circle that helped him get killed. You know, but even with Malcolm and all this, it's always people in your circle. You know, so that just comes with the territory, man. You know, you can I try my hardest, you know, cross all my T's, dot all my I's with people I have in my circle and things like that. And I know eventually it's going to become a point, you know, where I get enough young men risen up, you know, knowing what they're supposed to know and doing what they're supposed to be doing. They can be like, all right, yeah, this is a little getting out of hand. But you can shoot me, but you're going to have to drop a bomb on the rest of them because I done gave them all the knowledge or whatever. So that's my main thing. And that's one thing I feel like our leaders didn't do, which is what I'm doing, is training replacements. Because what if Dr. King had trained 30, 40 replacements? What if Malcolm had little Malcolms in training or whatever like that, you know?
Does that have any effect on what you teach and what you educate, given that you may get support from different sides?
No, I teach the same thing regardless of what anybody has to say. They can cancel me tomorrow and I'm still gonna be teaching the same thing to my boys, and they know exactly what I teach. And I wanna make sure that I'm continuing to be the example for them too. And a lot of them, you know, my boys have watched me move mountains as a teenager. So for a lot of them, they get to see possible. I'm their possible. They ain't never seen no young black man do nothing but get shot and robbed or whatever on TV, but you got somebody right here in your community. I had my own house, I had my own land. You know, I done bought land for them. I done took them all over the country. We've done flights everywhere. You know, I've shown them the world. You know, these kids are gonna be forever grateful, but I'm their example.
Yeah.
And so a lot of them look up to me, so I have to stay there for them, you know. I mean, people, you know, in my hometown talk so much trash and things like that, but
What do they talk about? I would think you'd be a hometown hero.
I was until I went national. Whenever I got any national attention, everybody, you know, kind of just, but that happens with everybody. Like one of our
What would be like the point of criticism against you starting a school for the neighborhood?
I'm too young. I ain't never been a teacher before. I mean, I got a whole list of stuff that people have to say. What I know about teaching some young men how to be men. I mean, it's a whole list of stuff people say in my hometown about me. I mean, I could go on a list, you know,
Yeah, wow.
but that's just coming to territory. Even the scripture tells you, you know, prophets love everywhere but his hometown, and that's okay. You know, I don't mind it. Like even one of our football players, his name Trent Brown. He's from Albany, plays for the Patriots, but he's national now. He was a hometown. Oh, everybody loved him to death, but now he's national. Oh, he don't come back enough. He don't give back to the community enough. Everybody always got something to say about everybody that goes national. Deion Branch, you know, he's from Albany. Ray Charles from Albany. All these people from Albany, but they never return because of the mindset of the people.
Yeah, well, it's a small town mindset.
Yep,
You understand
absolutely.
me?
And it is a small town, so.
Yeah. I mean, you know, that's understandable.
This episode is brought to you by Infinite Wealth Strategies. Infinite Wealth Strategy is a course that I created for all those who want to tap into everything blockchain, also for those who want to be a part of a community that is growing and learning together. We go from everything from the metaverse, cryptocurrency, tokenomics, non-fungible tokens known as NFTs, ways to understand decentralized finance, and learning how to utilize it. Also things just from learning 3 to 4 week book strategies and how to become an author, how to set up trust, how to move private, right? We have weekly classes on masculinity, femininity, spirituality. There's so much that's involved in it, but once you tap into the Infinite Wealth Strategies, you become a strategist on how you can produce wealth for your future. Come and learn financial literacy, how to put together a portfolio, or just come and learn how to earn cryptocurrency so you can start making money in the market that's producing millionaires on a daily basis. Tap into Infinite Wealth Strategies and you will have access to 2022. So all things that you didn't learn this year, you got probably about 2 more months to go ahead and put it all in your head. And this is an all you can learn situation. We're gonna charge you one time, and once you in, the knowledge is yours forever. And it will give you a return on that investment to the day you die. Infinite Wealth Strategy.
I want to transition. You did drop a lot of names in there in the last segment of conversation about different people, and you know, I'm a type of person I can sit down and have conversation with anybody, right? You know, I don't always agree with everybody. We have various degrees of ideologies, opinions, philosophies.
Of course.
You know, I just focus on what I'm doing. You know, and I know that, you know, I'm only going to get invited to certain places, but I also understand I don't need to be everywhere.
Absolutely.
I think that the connection and the link needs to be a unified agenda of what good people believe in. And I say good on purpose because people have to align themselves with whether they're good or bad. And bad is based on your morality, but even when you look at that, you can't have black people at the bottom, right? And then want us to, I think it was Malcolm X to talk about being American. And he said, you know, you might let me at the table, you understand me, but I can't consider myself to be a patron or a diner until I'm eating.
Exactly.
Right? And so black people are here at the American table, but we ain't eating. You understand me? So to consider yourself to be patriotic or truly be American, even though that, you know, we were the first in America, right? Everybody didn't come off slave ships. We were the first Americans, right? Melanated, dark people on this continent and on this soil of North America. But that's a different conversation. But the conversation today is that politics is mostly just conversation. You understand me? Like 99% of it is just talking about things. And then they're synergizing people to actually vote for things and make some small smidges of change.
Right.
There's the conservatives versus the Democrats and the liberals and all of that. And I don't get caught up in all that. But I do think that we live in a time where certain people that may think they're on the opposite, they are actually aligned. You understand me? With their viewpoint.
Absolutely.
And I think the most dangerous thing about today is not being able to have conversation openly for fear of censorship.
Yep.
And I think
they censoring,
Yeah.
man. And I tell people all the time, I say, y'all have to be aligned. I said, because they're not just censoring the pro-black voices and stuff. They censoring folk on the right side. They censoring folks on the left side. They censoring folk for a reason, especially if y'all align. And especially if y'all got big platforms. So the bigger platforms, like, you know, Alex Jones.
Yeah.
I think Brother Reza went on his platform, but Mr. Alex is like more conservative, if anything. And then, you know, Brother Reza is Brother Reza, you know, but they went on there because they aligned. But I'm like, most of y'all don't be disagreeing with a whole lot. Just like I mentioned earlier, Dr. Umar and Candace be saying like a whole bunch of the same stuff all the time. Same talking points or whatever, but one just said for the right, one just said for Pan-Africanism or whatever, but they make the same points. But imagine if they were to ever align. Imagine, you know, a Dr. Umar and Candace Owens like having a conversation. They could not have that. The establishment could not have them unified at no point. Or whatever, because then you got her with millions of the right side following, and then Dr. Umar with millions of black followers, and then all of us agreeing on something. Oh no, that cannot happen, or whatever. So of course, they're gonna censor Candace, they're gonna censor Dr. Umar, they're gonna censor Brother Reza, they're gonna censor Alex Jones, they're gonna censor Tucker Carlson, they're gonna censor all these people from these different, you know, areas because they don't never want them to ever find each other. And that's what I think it happens all the time. Because I'm like, me watching my timeline, you know, with my conservative followers and I got my pro-black people, I'm just watching everybody timeline, but most of them just saying some of the same stuff. Oh, everybody hates government, or black people hate government. White people hate the government too. Oh, they love guns, we love guns. You know, I'm just paying attention to all this stuff that we agree. I'm like, now imagine if all of us came together on these issues and then got behind
But do you
each other's
think that's
stuff.
actually possible?
I do.
I think that it's two parts of that, right?
The reason I say it's
possible is possible, but
Yeah.
at the same time, practical that will actually happen within our lifetime, number one. And then number two, there is I think one thing that those same people that agree that need to come together, they also agree on separation, that being around people who are like-minded than you so you can create environments of commonality where people can practice in peace the things that they believe, where they can protect each other and their belief system and stuff like that. I think the biggest issue is that everybody don't need to agree to get along, number one.
I agree.
You understand me? But when you force upon people your ideas and that you want to dominate and you want to be the one that has more control and dominion over this environment, where it's like, well, what about what I believe?
Right.
I'm a young black Muslim, and I've never seen representation of a young black Muslim in any movie, film, places, anywhere. Yet I see all new movements pop up about representation.
Right.
So it's like my empathy is there for some, but it's like I've never got that empathy for myself. So that marginalization to where you never humanize certain people is gonna always leave you divided. We'll be like, you know what, I just rather be around people who understand me. You understand me? Now, me and you have the ability to communicate at high levels. So you can be in different places or different hats and different fields, but I do know that environment does have dictation on character.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think that as much as we have the ability to reach multitudes and masses, having a strong sense of letting the world know what you align with and then forcing everybody else to respect that is key. And oftentimes when you stand so firmly on who you are, what you believe, that it forces other people to oppose it. Because they believe that if they're around you too much, then they now become like you. And that they have to relinquish some of their belief system and ideologies in order to do so. You know, but so let me ask you, who is one of your most inspirational ancestors?
I have a few of them. Definitely gonna start with Dr. King and Malcolm. Those are my two top ones. Fred Hampton. I'm gonna start with Martin and Malcolm, though. Them like my two main guys. And of course Fred Hampton. Those are like my main three. Of course, I have others, but those are like my.
What about Martin?
But yeah, Martin was a genius in his own right. I think that his way of going about the movement was extremely powerful because looking at how he was able to make America look to the world was how he was able to push things forward. I know everybody was encouraging him to fight back, et cetera, but he knew exactly what he was doing with the cameras being there, et cetera. He
Yeah, he was strategic.
Exactly, it was very strategic, and he made America look like trash before the entire world. Like, y'all supposed to be the world superpower, but this is how you treat your poor people. And everybody else looking at America like, so this how y'all treat y'all people over there or whatever? So this is in turn what started shifting things and getting stuff passed because America's looking like, terrible to the world when they're supposed to be number one. But aside from that, I believe Martin at the time was the president without being the president. He had the whole United States wrapped around his finger. I didn't care who it was.
That's interesting.
Martin could say anything and everybody would move. Martin could do anything, everybody would move. If Martin say tomorrow we're going to take over the White House, everybody was going to move. That's how powerful he was. The way he spoke, it was just powerful watching his speeches, reading his writings. He was probably the most intelligent man I just really ever seen. He's just a genius in his own right. He had the Christ energy. I know I hear people talk about it all the time, but he had that Christ energy. He was just a monster among men. And in fact, he was so small. He's only 5'6", but
Word.
powerful man. Yep.
He was short, huh?
Yep.
He had a Napoleon complex.
Yeah, he's very short. But I know a lot of people always ask.
I never knew Martin was short.
Yeah,
I ain't never know that.
Yeah, he's very short, 5'6". I'm taller than him.
Okay.
Yeah, but
That's interesting.
I study him a lot, and people always ask where my handle comes from. It comes from him. So my handle is New Emerging King. And in my studies of Dr. King, growing up, I started studying him because when I was younger, my grandmother told me. My grandmother's very spiritual. She's a pastor. And she told me about this conversation I had with her, and I remember it. We were riding in a car. She came and picked me up from pre-K. I never forget. I was in a gray car seat. We were in her 1995 Lexus ES300, and we were riding on South Madison Street, about to turn on Johnny Williams Street. I remember, and I asked her did she know how it felt to have butterflies in her stomach? And I was very articulate, just like my son is now. And I asked her, did she know how it was to have butterflies in her stomach? And she said, yeah. And I told her I was here to finish what Dr. King started. And from that day forward, my grandmother was like, what do you even know about Dr. King, for one? And then for two, she was like, I'm 4. She was like, I was 3 or 4 at the time. She was like, you're a kid. What do you even know to even say something like that? So she was like, it had to be God. My whole life, she never let me forget that. Me and my grandmother have had arguments. We've really had it out about this because she would never live it down. I didn't care what I was doing. I went to the Marine Corps. I graduated culinary school, etc. If you look at all my boot camp letters from Marine Corps boot camp, my grandmother's in the letters, don't forget what you're here to do. I don't care about you doing none of this stuff. I don't care about you going to culinary school. You know what you're here to do or whatever. So I finally gave in and I started studying Dr. King when I was about 18, 19 years old. And I went to the Dr. King Memorial in Atlanta. His gravesite is there. They have a big museum. And so at the time, I'm studying all of his writings, I'm studying speeches, etc. And I'm like, what exactly was this man supposed to be finishing? Like, I don't get it. I'm trying to figure out, why would I say that? Like, why would God give that to me? And I went through that museum, and I'll never forget it. I was walking through the part, they have the carriage that carried his casket through the city of Atlanta in that museum. And they have newspaper articles in that entire room from his funeral, and there's all these headlines. And one caught my eye, and I'm gonna buy it from the Pittsburgh Courier, from April 20 of 1968, and it says, "Will a new king emerge?" From there, that's where I got my handles from, and that's how I figured out what I was supposed to be doing. And then once I started working with my children, I realized that he didn't train any replacements. And so before I get into what I'm supposed to be finishing, I'm training replacements first, and I'll go finish it later on.
That's powerful. I like that. Well, the new king emerged.
Yep.
At the tail end of his life, he was stark on economics.
He changed.
And, boycotting corporations, you understand me, and focusing on getting our piece of the pie.
Yep.
And that's where he really became dangerous, because if he was able to point that energy that he had, that political clout that he had all across the nation towards economics, then he was going to really interrupt systems.
Yep.
You understand me? And I think that's one of the more dangerous things. And, one of my favorite, if not the favorite, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Honorable Elijah Muhammad was arguably the most successful black leader of all time. And you know, he didn't see himself as a leader, he was a messenger, but still, the reality of the consequence of his message and his execution, the ability to, you know, create a multi-million-dollar empire just on the business side. Before you get into the theology and the spiritual side, on the business side, he had schools, right? He had training programs. He had aviation school. He had real estate. He had trust. He had an airplane. He had import, export. You know, he had barbershops, supermarkets. He had newspapers. So, you know, and then he had chapters in mosques all throughout the United States. And then he had an international mission where he went and met with heads of different states and presidents and kings from all around the world. And number one, the intelligence it takes to do that, the intellect it takes to do that, but to have an idea and to execute it, that's success.
Absolutely.
Right? And so the longevity he had with the time from when he started in the 30s until the 1970s is why I give him that trophy of being the most successful, because there's no other black leader that had that timeline, number one. And then two, there's no other black leader that had an idea and they basically completed their mission. The mission was to deliver a message. And from that message, even his proponents that were against him still was like, you know what? You actually do have the greatest ability to reform black men and women. Take them off drugs, take them from pimping, take them from being dead, whatever it may be. And then as we fast forward in time, he had the greatest disciples of his teachings. And I believe partially of that is because of the amount of literature that he left behind by his ability to leave the book.
That's important.
So that now each person has the equal opportunity to go and study those teachings, reform themselves, right? And I think that that's probably the most powerful aspect of the reality of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And then of course now you have the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who is now at 90 years old. You know, in his time is, you know, upon us, where eventually he won't be here. And I think, you know, Black America is spoiled with having a leader, always having a leader, because we always looking for a new savior.
Exactly.
Right? Like from Noble Drew Ali to Marcus Garvey, you know, to Thurgood Marshall, to whoever you want to name, there's always some leader, there's always some savior with some message. Right? We gonna say to people, we gonna do this, that, and the third. So we always looking, other communities not always looking for a savior. They utilize family, technology, infrastructure, they utilize culture and rituals as their savior, which are always more effective.
They're executing.
Right? So it's like, even this message is not about people looking at me as a leader, or even looking at you particularly as a leader, but the ideas, the mindset, the do for self has been the most powerful 3 letters that has led movements, you understand me, for decades to come. Because any person that gets inspired by that, they find something within themselves to execute on those ideas. Like, they're not giving it to us, we'll give it to ourselves. But do for self is just the understanding of your human ability to actually get something done without help, that you already got enough.
That's a universal language.
But the idea of necessity of government help or corporate help or all of these things, not to say that they should do their moral deed and their job based on the way that they say they design, and just we on this earth and y'all got to serve us too. But at the end of the day, when we look at the history and the record of this country, we know that won't happen. So with technology, with, you know, unification, we got the ability to literally do everything for ourselves, right? Like, people don't like when I say, you know, the blockchain is where we can get our reparations, you know? And I heard you talk about this. Yeah, they owe us. They owe us, because no nation can get past their past without correcting it. You understand me? No matter how long you try to ignore it, it's gonna come, and it's gonna consistently have you in destabilized and war. You're never gonna have peace. But the reality of it is if, you know, you bought 40 acres, you know what I'm saying? You paid your 100,000, you understand me? If you waited for the government to do that, you'd probably be 2 generations in, or they'd probably be dropping some CBDC coin in your wallet, utilizing that to control you in society.
That's exactly what I said in the video. I said most of us are waiting for our 40 acres, and I decided to go take it. It's as simple as that.
There's a cost of 40 acres.
Yeah, and I'm just like, you don't have to. Sure, if you want reparations, go and get it. You can go and take it. I'm just like, you don't have to just. You want them to give you a check and say, this is on the line, reparations. I don't need that to say reparations like that.
Oh, I do need my check though.
Look,
I need you still owe me some money.
Look,
you
I
know,
get it.
I need my check.
Yeah.
I don't want y'all to think you getting off. I'm just doing my thing right now.
Right, I
But
get
it's like
it.
when somebody owe you, you still owe me my money even though I'm getting money.
Yeah, I'm gonna get my money. Yeah. But I get it. But yeah, my main thing is just like I mean, if it come, it come. It don't. You know, we still got stuff to do, you know, in our community and make it happen, you know, period.
Yeah.
So definitely teaching my boys as much as I can, you know, even Booker T. Washington's model. I love his model. He had a do for self model also. He back in the 1800s, you know, he came and, you know, as a slave, you know, he got free, you know, during that time, but he taught himself how to read, and reading up from slavery, his book, so powerful, and he still has that standing organization to this day. Granted, it's been taken over by, you know, whoever, but it's still standing, you know, and the backlash he got from black people in the community because he wanted to start his own school, you know, was terrible. But watching him is like my model too, like trying to start my own school in my community where, you know, we have a bad education, etc., you know, and hearing other people get mad at you trying to help that situation versus them wanting to send all their kids to the white school. They're like, what you want to start a school for, you know, etc., etc. I mean, this can happen and that can happen. We just need to give
also,
more money
that's
to the system.
interesting
and
you
blah,
say
blah.
that because now that would be more the Malcolm in you because, you know, Martin was integration. But your model is really separation, but not separation in the way that most people think about it. Separation meaning that we own it.
Exactly.
You understand me?
And that's what I mean, you know, by ownership. You know, that's why I don't have to use that word. I'm just like, no, I talk about ownership. I'm like, because, you know, separation, you know, most people think about it by race or something like that. I'm just like, I got white kids that been to the program. I got Hispanic kids. And I'm like, people also, well, are you going to take other kids too? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, why would I not want them to know the truth too? I'm gonna tell everybody the truth. I'm gonna tell the white kids the truth, tell the Hispanic kids the truth, tell the black kids the truth, or whatever. I'm not gonna turn any kids down, you know, that are trying to come to the school. And, you know, I have a relationship with all of them. I can't help how they were born. I can't help that's just their color. That's just who they are. But all of them take a liking to me. All of them get along. They don't have no race conversations. They don't be in there. That stuff is taught, you know. So if they're in an environment where that's not being taught or whatever like that, you know, well, in that way, or whatever, then they should live in harmony, and that's
But I also don't think it's wrong with prioritization.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't either.
You understand me? Because
definitely
I think oftentimes people use that as a mechanism of control to have influence on what you got going on.
Yep.
In the sense where it's like, here's the chief thing. Like I keep trying to get to this point. If number one, we can have our own shit without anybody else. There's nothing wrong with that because everybody got that. And nobody gets the ability to make us feel guilty about focusing on ourselves. That means that we love ourselves, we love our community, we love our people. That's the greatest example of any black person, you understand me, period, is one who goes out there and help their own people in that condition. And anybody that looks on that from the outside is just supposed to say, let me help you. Do something good.
Absolutely.
That's it. And the other part is you just shut up. You understand me? Like for me, that's just pure what it's about. You feel me? Because what happens is, from what I see in my interpretation is, you know what? I love what the brother doing, but let me have some sort of influence to where I can change the way this thing is to where I feel more comfortable. It ain't about your feelings. It's about really changing conditions. Because like I said, go look at the statistics in America. Who gets it worse? Young black boys and men. And until that's changed, I don't want to hear a person goddamn mouth. You understand me? When those
Especially if you're
conditions
not
are
doing it to
equal,
fix it.
the only area where white men have us is in suicides. You understand me? Those are the only area. They kill themselves more often, right? But of course, in every other area, from disease to incarceration to different crimes, black men, the gap, I mean, we talking about cancer, we talking about gun violence, we talking
Everything
about
you can think of,
homicide, everything. It's like, damn, that's overwhelming. So anybody that would look at it from the outside to say, yo, if you want to create change in this country, we have to go to the people who are affected the most first. Right? And so what I see as my focus, because, you know, my knowledge is universal, right? My message is intentional, right? And the intention of my message is to first get it to my people who look like me. I got 6 brothers, you understand me? And we all come from adverse childhood experiences. We all come from poverty, we all come from the hood. And we all go through different psychological issues just being black men in America, not having outlets for those particular traumas. And I know for a fact that not everybody has a key in their life, somebody that can help them, steer them in the right path. So I'd be damned if I start with the world when the house is not in order. You understand me?
Absolutely.
And so the idea for me of separation is just saying that it's like you having a room in somebody else's house. That's like what integration was. But having your own house, that's separation.
Yep.
Same neighborhood, but we all have our own houses.
Yep, just like
But can't we get along that way?
Yeah, Jay-Z said, fuck a slice of the apple pie on my own cake.
Yeah, I want the recipe. I want the bakery.
Yeah.
I want the orchard farm.
Yep.
You understand me? I want it all. Why not? What's wrong with me having it all if my whole entire life I went to South Africa and the white farmers, they own hundreds of acres of land. Then you go to certain places and you got black people living in cubicles 10 by 10 with 3 to 4 people on top of each other, 4, sometimes 5, 6 in little small homes. How could you not look at that condition and be like, oh, if I was to come to that country and help anybody, I'm focusing on all of these people first.
Right.
All across the planet is like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even with buzzwords that people use all the time, like systemic racism and stuff like that, just to kind of get the algorithm going and stuff like that. I've had conversations, with the other side, in regards to the systemic racism piece. They'll say, oh, well, systemic racism doesn't exist. But, they agree with school choice, with us having our own schools, right? But they'll say in the same breath, well, black children and Hispanic children are underserved, minorities are underserved in these schools and stuff like that. And I'm just like, well, how are you going to say systemic racism doesn't exist when you're telling me it does? I'm just like...
Well, I think that racism is the distraction, white supremacy is the reality.
Yeah.
Right? And so nobody can say white supremacy doesn't exist. Right? That's a reality across the globe and throughout history. You can literally go throughout history and see where it comes from, right? And like we've had wars based on this. You understand me? Black people have been killed, murdered, hung. There's laws that was created specifically to redline. Like you can't say white supremacy doesn't exist. The question is, and same thing, you could consider all of that systemic racism, right? That's the underbelly of it though. But the reality of it is white supremacy. And white supremacy causes the redlining. White supremacy says you can't get home loans. White supremacy creates environments and conditions of the hood. So in projects. So, okay, my question for people like that is when did it end? Because when you say it don't exist, you have to acknowledge that it, first of all, you have to acknowledge that it did exist or it ended.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So what point and what year did it end?
Right. And me, I use the words white savagery. I say white savagery because I don't use the word.
That sounds harsh.
Yeah.
Harsher?
Yeah, but I don't use the word white supremacy because that denotes that somebody's supreme over me, in my opinion.
Well, it's an idea of white supremacy.
I get it.
Like,
Right. So
like Hitler had ideas.
Right.
The same shit.
Yeah, personally, I just don't want to. I don't want to come out of my mind. I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna say white savagery. That's because that's what it is. It's savagery. It's not supremacy.
Well, it's a complex.
Savagery. Yeah, I get it. They're complex. Yeah, so I call it white savagery. But yeah, all of that stuff, it's good to pay attention to. It's good to make mention of. It's good to know in your mind what's going on. So that way, while you're going to get your own piece of the pie or going to make your own cake, you just have knowledge. So that's why I tell people all the time when they asking me about why I'm going in certain rooms, I know my knowledge already. So I know how to maneuver and make sure ain't nothing happening that ain't supposed to be happening, etc. I know the history. I know what they're capable of, etc. So let me maneuver how I need to maneuver to go get what I need to get, or whatever. And,
a man with knowledge of self is key. And as long as, you can, Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that heaven is money, good homes, friendships of all walks of life.
Yeah.
That last part, when he said all walks of life, I was like, all?
Yeah, even with even in the scripture, when Jesus talk about speaking in tongues, or whatever, I'm like, people think that's that. No, I'm like, that's not necessarily that. It's you being able to talk to the dead, or and raise them,
to bring that life into them.
Speak their language. I'm like, that's not tongues is not the and all that stuff at church. I'm like, no, it's speaking the language of the people you're trying to raise, or speaking the language of the people that you're trying to reach. That's speaking in tongues. I can speak fluid tongue. I can speak to the hood and go speak to this group. I can go speak to that group. That's speaking in tongues. I'm like, and that's what Jesus did. I'm like, or in all walks of life. And that's what I try to explain to people about speaking in tongues, because they take it in the sense of them. I'm like, what is happening there? Like, what is this supposed to be doing? What is it moving?
I think also a lot of people are not comfortable with themselves in that capacity, so they can't imagine how you would be able to move in a room of snakes and not be moved. You understand me?
Exactly,
Into the
yep.
nature of the snake. So that sometimes it's that, but then
It's
sometimes
powerful knowledge of self.
sometimes it is a grave warning to be careful because sometimes we can be boasted in our egos and in our confidence and not realize how powerful some of those rooms can be
Yep.
and how they can put you in compromising situations or influence you in different capacities
Right.
so that the central message and principles that you stood for start to waver a little bit.
And that's why I believe it's important for every man to have a circle of elders. I think even myself, I still have people I answer to. I still get disciplined by my grandfather, my uncles, etc. Even as a grown man, I listen to them and I allow them to discipline me. And I consult them with all decisions that are made, including my manager and every man that helped raise me, etc. I speak to all of them about all decisions I make, whether that be women or my previous marriage or whatever. I talk to them about everything, about my children, etc.
You were married?
Yeah. I allow them to make, help me make decisions, in regards to my life because I believe that's the way every man should do. I'm 22 years old. You're not even a full-grown adult, scientifically to 25. Especially as a man. So, I think it's extremely important that you have people that you still talk to, you still consult with, and you don't just sit there and make all decisions on your own. So when I am moving through these rooms, if somebody say something, I'm like, hey, well, they said this or offered this, and my uncle will be like, nah, bro, listen, like that ain't what's happening. This is what was said, da 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 da. So then I can be like, okay,
That's dope.
Yeah, so I can go back and be like, yeah, nah, after talking to my counsel, and people, I'll say that too, after talking to my counsel, that's not what's going to happen. After talking to my team, that's not what's about to happen, and that just is what it is, because I consulted with my counsel.
Counsel is key.
My counsel is not going to let it happen. My granddad, my uncles, etc., even my former stepdad, and even my biological dad, I'll talk to him about a few things. We don't have a tumultuous relationship, no bad relationship or nothing like that. It's just, he and my mom went together, but he didn't do much, but he's my dad, and I love him to death. But yeah, I still consult, as many elders as I can in regards to my decision making, but only the elders that I trust in my circle. And that's extremely important. So whenever we are going through these rooms, we can have all the knowledge in the world and think we're the smartest person, but somebody gonna see something you didn't. And this happened multiple times. Even my manager, even mistakes I've made, he'll tell me before. He'll allow me to make, certain decisions still because I'm a grown man. But he'll warn me. He like, listen, I don't think that's a smart thing to do. I don't think that's the right thing to do. I'm like, all right, I'll make the decision, and then something happens, and it reinforces the need for the counsel.
Yeah,
So.
I think that we live in an opportunity. This is the time is the opportunity zone, right? Mm-hmm. The time is the opportunity zone because, number one, a strategy of looking at a lot of these corporations and a lot of these companies, they don't want to be seen as quote unquote woke.
Right.
Right.
And right now it's so annoying because everybody trying so hard to be woke. Like it's annoying.
Well,
like
it's funny because woke used to mean kind of the opposite of what it means now.
Yeah,
It's
like it was a good thing before. Yeah.
Well, it was like growing up in like the conscious community made woke the thing. Like they don't get credit for it, right? But if you can specifically go to like Harlem and 125th, where you're talking about a lot of consciousness being spread around the world. And so being woke with somebody who is aware of the reality, the veils of reality, who was running the world, what were the agendas,
Not just throwing it around. Yep.
So it was the opposite of somebody who now goes with, the crowd ways of thinking. Because in the new woke, they've put such a good spin on it that they're now being woke is sleep. You understand me? Because it's following the crowd and moving like a sheep.
Right, and doing things that intentionally make us want to spend more money. Like, I'm like, y'all really think these corporations really care about racism? They putting in racism everywhere. The NFL got it in the end zone. The Hellmans, they got it on all the shows. And we're helpful for the LGBT. And they got the NBA cares, Black Lives Matter this and da-da-da. Like, I'm like, these are corporations that are still owned by these same entities that are still oppressing y'all. I'm like, so regardless of them putting it everywhere, or Disney World want to be woke now and put
corporations. That's the whole.
And they're marketing to who's the people that spend the most money. We are. And I'm like, so of course they're gonna market the black folk. All right, we can't lose our people who spend the most
capitalism.
money. So sure, everybody, and racism. Oh, we're with the LGBT community. We love Black Lives Matter, and we hate the police too, and blah blah blah. And they're still funneling money to all the prisons and stuff.
It's basically weaponizing your own consciousness against you.
Exactly, and we fall for it every time.
By the time people get it, it's mainstream.
Yep.
Right? Like, when you want to see something that's powerful, you understand me? It's never what the masses believe.
Of course.
The masses are always the sheep. It's the sheep, the shepherds, and the wolves.
Yep.
You understand me? And so the shepherds try to guide you away from the wolves. You understand me? But oftentimes the people end up following the wolves. They may save you for one day only to fatten you up to eat you later. You understand me? And so the reality of this new woke culture, new woke capitalism, the millennials and the Gen Z, you know, are in trouble because they don't realize you being led to a feast where you dinner. Right, and they're weaponizing and using these ideas that they know are going to care about. And so now, if I'm a corporation, then let me make that now into my branding, because all I care about is profits, the shares. You understand me, and capitalism. So of course I'm going to guide you over here like I care about you, but it's the same thing. So oftentimes they talking about deconstructing systems, but you just fall into a new construct. You want to get rid of labels, and then you throw in 1,000 more labels. That's the new thing. It's just relabeling.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I'm saying that just serves to divide us more. I remember talked about how when we were slaves, we got branded. I mean, we're branding ourselves now, even with you know, clothing designers, etc., and now corporations and TV shows, whatever. We're branding ourselves. We're wearing the brand, you know, of this certain company because we they slave now. You know, so those are things, you know, we don't pay attention to, and even how they're fixing our kids up now, you know, with cell phones, because it's so easy to parent now, because you can just give them a tablet so they can stop getting on your nerves and stuff like that.
No, the corporations are the parent.
And I've told people before, you know, people are, you know, really up in the air about me not having cell phones at the school. You know, I'm just like, they won't have any type of cell phone, period. We will teach them how to utilize social media. Yes, we'll teach them how to, you know, digital real estate, etc. But social media, phones, all that stuff, no go, because there is no way, and I keep telling parents this, especially if you got a kid, there's no reason for your child to have a smartphone under the age of 17. I don't care, because the stuff under 17, because the stuff that's on these phones, and I got kids, and I was just a kid a few years ago. The stuff that these kids are doing on these phones, meeting people on these phones, it is more detrimental. We could say, oh, he can learn how to make money. I just want to track his location. It is doing more harm to your child than anything. The nude photos, the selling drugs, the exchanging how to do this, learning how to kill yourself at 7 years old, 8 years old. What does a 7-year-old know about hanging themselves besides you found a YouTube video or seen somebody say it online? What does a 10-year-old know about suicide? I didn't find out about suicide till I was in fifth grade. And when I heard the word suicide, I thought it was like some type of mass killing, because I'm like, I heard of homicide and genocide, so I'm thinking it's another type of side. And it was like, oh, it's killing yourself. I'm like, killing yourself? I'm like, what you mean kill? Why would I kill myself? I'm like, that don't make no sense, but it's taboo now. Like, all these kids know about killing themselves. And I'll give a personal example. One of my close family members, I'm not gonna say her name, but 13 years old, you know, and mom went through her phone, caught her in the bed with a kid, a boy or whatever, like 16, and, you know, got nude photos with them in the phone, like, and watch, but you know how it bred, knew it bred from watching Love and Hip Hop on that phone all day, looking at TikToks, watching the girls twerking all day, all that stuff like that, being in conversations with the mom while she doing hair at the hair salon and big, you know, women conversations and stuff like that. Now she's got to a point where she's so far gone, smoking weed, you know, can't keep her away from boys, can't control her. And she's 13, man, 13, bro, having sex, all that stuff, you know, and it's insane.
Do you think, though, because those same activities existed pre-cellular?
I agree.
So is that environment still going to lead them there? It's just now they have a tool that exacerbates it, because
it exacerbates it. Yeah, it exactly. So I didn't start being blunt. I didn't know what porn. I didn't start watching porn until like, you know, 13, 14. But that's when I got, you know, a media device. Like most people your age had like magazines and stuff like that you can look in. You know, like
who's trying to hit my age?
You ain't had cell phones your whole life. But yeah,
I had one in high school.
Yeah, but y'all like
actually I did have a
But I'm talking about smartphones.
It's funny. No, we didn't. They weren't that smart. We played Snake and stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, we had Facebook, right? That's when Facebook and all the other little apps, Black Planet and all them other ones were popping during that time. So no, the social media era. As soon as I got in high school, that's when like really the social media era began. You understand me? So funny enough, I didn't have a cell phone, you know, until probably 16. No, probably 15. You understand me? I didn't have one that was like working.
Yeah, I think that's around about 8. And I think they should just only have a phone that you can call and text them on. But like the stuff that they have access to, and then not to mention.
But what about the idea that if you censor them for so much, it's gonna make them want it more? Because it's like the same thing with like young children. I mean, I grew up in a pretty conservative household where, you know, you can't do this, that, and the third, right? A lot of rules and regulations. But at the end of the day, that makes a child more curious to want it. So how do you manage the expectation of saying that it's not that this is something that you can't have, but I'm gonna teach you what it is, the reality of it,
Right.
and how to navigate through it.
Right. So one of my main things is teaching them about it and how to utilize it. But I'm fostering their environment. So when I say kids don't need no cell phones, I say that especially for a mom who's working all day and who ain't able, just being real with yourself, ain't able to raise your kids. Cell phones raising your kid, just be blunt. Not to mention what they learn from at school from other kids, and stuff like that. So that's another reason I started my school too. I don't want my kids going to regular school learning stuff from no other kids because of the stuff they get into, stuff they know. I got kids who been molested already and going touching other boys and stuff like that because they've been done like that before. This is environment stuff that we have to foster. There are no rules and no real discipline at school. So I refuse for them to go to school and have a cell phone and learn all this stuff. Like, there is no real environment for kids to be raised. And you at work all day, you think your kid at school, they ain't at school. They drinking lean at school, they having sex at school, they doing sex tapes, giving head, all this stuff. This is happening at school, on video, all the time. And the schools won't talk about it. They'll, post a fight or something maybe, but they don't want to talk about how they caught the kids, doing this at school, doing that, because they don't want to show the lack of discipline, lack of rules, etc. We have to foster that environment. So until we foster that environment, I actually wouldn't mind letting them have phones sometime in my school because I know it's happening there all the time, at all times.
But that to me kind of leads to the danger of
just village.
Just also when you have that over surveillance, you understand me, and that what's going on, so that's what's happening. There's always going to be time where you don't know what's going on, right?
I agree.
And then when they're outside of that supervision, how they're acting then, right? Because I know people from all around the world, and they always act a certain way when they're in front of me.
Of course.
But then once they leave, they go back to their environment or their condition.
And that's why we teach them character.
How do you condition the minds to be like that, even though they're not under surveillance?
Right. So that's the biggest thing about village and environment. So most of the time when you see me, I'm the same person off camera, etc., because this is how I was raised. And regardless of the rules I had at home, etc., or whatever, and it ain't even that I wanted to break them. I knew what to and what not to do. I didn't have to say, my mom didn't have to say, this is the rules, I just knew what to do and what not to do just because of how I was raised and the men that I was around. So I didn't have to go sneak out. If I wanted to go somewhere, I just asked my mom. I'm like, hey, mom, can I go to the movies? Even when I want not go to school or something, I just asked. I'm like, hey, mama, me and my girlfriend want to go to the mall. Okay, what's your grades
But you
look like?
never go, you might have been a good kid, but it's like, you never go say it as it may be like, I want to go out with the boys or we're going to go to a party, but you never go give the details of everything that's going on.
So my mom and I talked to my mama. So this is in how your relationship is with your kids too. My mama knew what was going on with me. She knew when I started having sex or whatever. Like, it is what it is. But that's in your relationship with your kid. Even with my stepdad and stuff, they knew what was going on with me because I told them, because we had that type of relationship.
Do y'all teach any religion in the school?
Yeah, absolutely. We teach religion in the school, but I do have kids that will be coming of other religions. So on Sundays, they'll have a joint teaching where it will be like not Christian based, not Muslim based, etc. It'll just be a joint teaching for them. If their parents wish for them to learn something separate, etc. We'll have, a priest or something come, for the Christian kids, like a regular pastor or something. We'll have, somebody come for the Muslim kids.
Now, what's the
etc.
importance of teaching the religion in the school?
I think the importance is just based off of what they believe. I cannot teach them against what they believe, especially what their parents, want them to know, etc. So I think all in all, the teaching is what the parents really want them to come for, in regards to outside of religious purposes. But I do want them to strive for what their religion, believes. For the most part, most religions have, positivity in it. And especially if we're reinforcing, positivity, because I don't see a whole lot of difference in, Muslims and Christians all the time, but other people do, but I look at some of the stuff they study, etc. I'm like, sound about the same to me.
Yeah, no, my Muslim school taught me, discipline probably was the biggest key.
Yeah, probably discipline. Yeah.
Discipline probably extremely, we would go, it's not even just discipline. So we would have men's meetings, FOI meetings, Monday nights. On those Monday nights, it was after school. You understand me? So we'd sometimes be there like 12 at night. You understand me? And I remember I used to go with my older brother and my pops. And when we'd go there, we'd get searched before we come in, even being a youngster. But my pops, he was the captain of the temple at the time. You understand me? But when we would participate in the men's meetings, we would participate in the exercising, the combat exercising, the workouts, right? Business affairs. Sometimes men would get admonished for things that they did throughout the week, right? that taught me a discipline that no other place on the planet Earth has given me.
Yep.
But also just seeing men take care of business on a
Yep.
consistent basis.
Habits are important.
Right.
When you create habits, and that's one thing I love that I went to the Marine Corps for, because it helped me be able to learn how to help mold my children and the
Right.
boys. People ask all the time, how are you able to keep them disciplined and keep control of them at such a young age as yourself? I'm just like, it's because of the consistency and the habits that we're creating. The reason they have to get up at a certain time every day, the reason they have certain things they'll do, working out, doing firearms training, etc., doing swimming, like learning how to do things, etc., and every day having a set thing that you're doing, that's going to create a habit in you. Most of the most successful people I know all have habits.
Right.
I don't care, like Jameer Jackson, this is my manager's stepfather, and he's the CFO of AutoZone. He worth like a lot of $1 million or whatever, but he has a routine. And he's going to follow it every single day. Me, I wake up at 5:30 every morning. I don't care what's happening. I don't care if it's 5:31, 5:29. My brain gonna wake up at 5:30 every morning. My alarm gonna go off at 6 just to make sure I'm out of bed. But I know for a fact my brain gonna wake up at 5:30. I don't care where I'm at. If I come over here and 3 hours behind, I'm gonna go to sleep and my brain gonna wake up at 5:30. That's just
No, habits are key. Like I don't think I
habits
started
are
to
key.
gain real traction and success in my life until I started making habits. Like that's when I started to have
that's the
breakthrough
mindset
months.
thing. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's why I
Because-
think my mom wasn't so worried about what I was. She knew I wasn't going to do nothing stupid because
Yeah.
she know how my dad, my granddad, them out and raised me. I may go do something here and there, some little minor stuff with it. It wasn't gonna never be nothing about no drugs. It was never gonna be nothing about me going to crash the car. It was gonna be nothing crazy because she knows how she raised me. But on the other hand, people who aren't raising their kids, if I want moms to think about how much time they actively spend with their kid. Most moms, single moms, don't spend no time with their kids at all because they at work and then they at school all day. When they at school, then they get out of school, you at work. And they're just by themselves all the time. You technically not raising them at all. I'm like, so you have to tell yourself, be like, look, and be honest. I need to figure out something for my kids, like get them some type of male role model, etc. And most parents who can be honest about that are good parents, and I'm like, I can't do this. I'm by myself. He don't have his dad in his life. I need to figure something out and find some types of males around, to help raise his boy.
But I want to get back to the habit thing though, because I like what you said around that. Like I said, like when I found true traction and breakthrough, it's through the habits, right? Same thing as a young male. As a young male, going to school, having to put on a uniform, eat at a certain time, everything is scheduled. You don't have that much time to drift away besides what you're doing. That becomes your frequency within life.
Eric Thomas talked about that before.
Yeah. And so that's it's a super key. Like even for parents right now trying to figure out how to develop their mind that, they won't have the opportunity to go to your school, right? They need to figure out how to, number one, put their child on a routine.
Yep.
Because at least while they're doing this, they're not doing other things. Then there's the in-between time, but the hope is that the routine builds up a certain character because you got patterns that become repetition, you understand me, that become character, and that becomes who you are. So now that's how you're operating on a consistent basis.
Right.
And being able to control the environment is an interesting thing, but it's like as a parent, you can't be a perfect parent,
Absolutely
right?
not.
But you can be a good parent, and a good parent is one that has a duty. You understand me? And that duty is making sure that you're doing everything to the best of your abilities.
Right.
And whatever you lack in, then somebody else has to be in. You can't just say, well, I lack in that, so therefore it's not in the household.
Exactly, and that's why you can't have perfect parents, but you can have a perfect village, because where I fail at, he might not be feeling that. And then literally, if we have a model where, because I'll have instructors too, I might not be, fluent or whatever in what they may be fluent in. We all gonna help the kids in our own ways. So if I got one kid and he's getting everything he's supposed to get from all 5 of us, then he has a perfect village to grow up in. And that's what I want parents to get to. Like even with homeschooling, I tell parents, I'm like, you can create your own homeschool program. I'm like, y'all know y'all want y'all kids homeschool, right? What y'all can do is y'all can create y'all little homeschool network. It's a lot of free homeschool programs online, right? What you can do is be like, look, I work during the week, and I know we need all the kids watch, so you can get 5 moms. Okay, Monday, you off of work, you teach the kids language on Monday, and I'm gonna feed all the kids and we good. We'll combine each other's stamps or whatever, and we'll make something happen. Tuesday, you go to work, but I'm off. So I'm gonna teach science on Tuesday to all the kids, and y'all gotta make it work. And I'm like, if people literally combine and make things, we can make it work if we wanted to, but that's what it spoke to you saying we're lazy. Because we can make little stuff like that work if we wanted to. It doesn't have to be no school. We can literally start somewhere. And that's why I tell people all the time, like, where you see me at now, it literally started from me up all night trying to figure stuff out, eating little beanies and weenies with the boys, eating hot and ready pizzas, painting houses, cutting hair, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it takes some time, but you gotta want to work for
that
it.
homeschool piece is key, especially with everything that's happening with the world, the government, all the different mandates. People trying to figure out their other option, and of course, the homeschool is just
School
takes
choice, yep.
For a lot of people, like you say, most parents are babysitters, right? So they're not raising them. You understand me? Because you got to elevate the child in their consciousness and develop them into a mature human being,
Right.
readiness for success in the world in order to really be raising the child. But when you're talking about the option of a homeschool, I would implore to parents, all around the world, is to look at that as an option.
Yep.
As more and more things that you disagree with in the school system starts to set in and change,
Yep.
homeschooling will always be an option, you understand me, as a solution, right? But that ability to be able to create a network of parents, online, digital, or within your physical environment,
Yep.
is the formula,
It's the
right?
formula.
If you want to have a child now, then you like, well, I don't like this world. Give them their own world.
Yep.
You understand me? And so you don't want your child to be, they have to be in the world, but they don't have to be of the world.
Exactly.
You understand me? But I want to close in a second on this.
Peace Family is 19 Keys tapping in. Do you have the knowledge to be able to teach your child cryptocurrency, how to build wealth? Do you have the knowledge to be able to teach them NFTs? See, I know a lot of you all think that you love your children, but I believe that love is an act and it's a duty. A lot of you all think that you love yourself, but you're depriving yourself knowledge that you can be utilizing in order to invest and live a better life. And that same knowledge can help produce a better life for your child. Now, if you learn this simple information by taking a few courses, you understand me, you have the ability to be able to teach, discuss it, and learn a whole new language, which also builds you a whole new life. So therefore, the next time that you stare your child in the eye, you can actually be honest when you say that you love them, because you know you're doing every single thing to set them up for the future. Make sure you tap into Infinite Wealth Strategies. We'll teach you financial literacy, we'll put you in the community, teach you how to write books, teach you how to produce a book for your child if you got one, teach you how to set up your portfolio, how to set up your trust, and a multitude of other different things that is involved in it. Take your first step in building a better future. Join Infinite Wealth Strategies and become a strategist of wealth. Tap in.
As I sit here, man, and I just think about the future of society, there's a lot of things that may plague a person's mind today. Specifically, like raising a child. That's such a huge issue.
It is.
But also co-parenting. You understand me? And so when it comes to co-parenting and raising a child with a significant other that you're not with, right? How does that work out for you? Do you have, the trials and tribulations that we see in everyday America with the baby mama, baby daddy drama?
No, not necessarily. Of course, we have disagreements and things like that, but for the most part, she agrees with everything that I stand for, personally as a man, and the things that I've, done. She's watched me build, etc. Both of my boys were born in marriage, so it's choosing who to procreate with. I know a lot of people have that type of drama because usually they just be out here having sex with anybody, or just picking who you decide to have sex with. Like, I know people who will see a guy who got 4 baby mamas already, and then you'll go have raw sex with him, and then
become the 5th.
I'm just like, become the 5th, and I'm just like, that don't make no sense. Like, I don't be understanding the logic sometimes, but I was raised in a way to know, like what I was looking for, at least roundabout what I was looking for. So yeah, we don't have a bad relationship in regards to co-parenting. It just is what it is. Like I said, she agrees with most of the things that I believe in regards to raising my boys and, having them to be greater than me. I want them to be better than me, and I want to try and create a life for them to, have a better life than I did. Even if my life was great, I want theirs to be greater. And let them go be whatever they want to be, and not just have them pick up my mantle, or most dads work for their sons to go take over their family role or whatever like that. Nah, I want them to do what they want to do, be who they want to be. I'll guide them, give them the principles, help them develop habits, help them develop their character, and develop myself,
So you being young and divorced, what King Randall look for in a woman? What's your next woman gonna need?
Oh man, I don't know. And that's me being honest. I'm 22 years old.
You got no ideas?
I'm 22, and I'm gonna say I have no idea. Because
virtuous, thick, dark skin, anything.
As a black woman, of course, but I can't give that answer because as a 22-year-old guy, I thought I knew what I wanted.
Okay, I get you.
Yeah, I thought I knew what I wanted. I thought I knew what I was looking for. I thought that's what I wanted, but it's all in discovering completely who I am myself, you know, and maybe wait until I'm, again, scientifically a full-grown adult, 27, 28 years old to figure that out. But right now, I don't know what I want in a woman. I think I might know. I think I might want to be fine and be smart and burn some sage or do a crystal or two or whatever, or maybe not.
Sound like a little list. Sound like a list is brewing. You feel me?
Yeah, but nah, man, I don't know. So, and that's just being honest. I don't know what I would want in a woman
Gotta
right
get
now.
you a sacred woman, man.
Yeah.
Somebody who knows how to create a home. Somebody who is a home. I was
Yeah,
talking with,
and I'll give credit to my grandmama. She did, you know, I will say my grandmother for my last 2 years of high school. I went to live with my grandmother for my last 2 years of high school. My mom moved to Atlanta. And my grandmother for my last 2 years was teaching me what I should expect in a wife. And she wasn't telling me directly what that was. I didn't realize it until last year, literally. And my grandmother, like for my last 2 years of school, like she would make my breakfast every day, you know, wake up in the morning and, you know, ask me what I wanted, you know, get my clothes out, iron my suits for me when I had events and things like that. Like all this stuff, send me nice text messages during the day, you know, make up the bed, you know, all that little stuff like that. And I never paid any attention. I'm just like, you know, grandma's just being grandma, you know, or like that. But then last year, like I was just sitting in my truck and I was just like, I caught my grandma. I was like, grandma, I said, like, you was literally showing me like just the conversations we had, etc., even down to when we argued and stuff. Like she was trying to show me, you know, what I was supposed to have, you know, in a wife. And what's crazy is I'm super grateful for like my entire village because all of them literally molded me. And you know, like I said, I have a roundabout idea, man, you know, but I don't know what I need in a wife yet. You know, so as I discover myself more and as my purpose grows and discover what I'm doing, I need to find somebody, you know, whose purpose aligns with mine and we're equally yoked and we can make it happen.
Yeah, I think, well, that's the key. I think you actually kind of lined out what you did want because she does have to be aligned with your principles, your mission, your vision and values. You understand me? In order for you. And then also being a man of vision and a man of mission, you have to have somebody who can help and support that in different ways. You understand me? But I think that, you know, as I grow and understand things in different capacities is that you have to understand, you got to look at your real overarching mission and vision.
Right.
Because you're going to want a woman that fits into that, right? You may be comfortable right now and maybe just want a woman for her looks, right? But then as you're growing and you go through challenges and you go through growth, you're going to want a woman that can be a part of that process.
Yep.
You understand me? And that has somewhere inside that vision where she's there assisting or growing and helping in some sort of capacity and participation.
Right.
And I know that unfortunately right now, you know, I always say that the dependent black man and the independent black woman, you understand me, were made to repel each other because the black man cannot be depended on, you understand me, and then the black woman depends on no one.
Right.
You understand me? So therefore, they have no need or value for each other. So they go in separate ways.
Right.
Right? But any man of vision, of purpose, of great mission has to have a woman that is interdependent and that is also assisting and helping and nurturing,
Right.
you know, his mission so that he can consistently go further because that's going to be your confidant. That's going to be your
Absolutely.
compass. You understand me? And so
Extremely important,
Yeah.
probably the biggest piece of the puzzle.
the biggest piece, who you marry, you understand me, completely, you know, has an effect on your destiny.
Right.
Picking the right woman, right destiny. Wrong woman, wrong destiny.
Yep.
And it's not 100% because you can always leave the person you with, but then you don't want to spend some of the most formidable times of your
Exactly.
life with the wrong person, learning the lessons. You understand me? Yes, you'll be wiser afterwards,
Yep.
but because you went through the wrong thing.
But you be wise and old, you
Yes.
know, and you mean lived out the time. Yep.
So,
Understood.
you know, I just wanted to sit down and I'm glad we was able to cover all things from politics, you know, to modern day revolution, right? Is what I see and what you're talking about. And I think that the duplication of more community impactors is what we need today.
Right.
If we're going to utilize social media for anything to be influential, and if you're going to be in these different rooms with different people, have an intention that's connected to a mission.
Integrity.
So that you're not just around people for clout, you're not around people for, you know, proximity, but it's leading towards an agenda that has an impact on generations to come.
Yep.
Man, so, you know, regardless of criticism that you may receive from others, you get none over here because I appreciate the work you're doing with the young boys.
Yeah, I appreciate
you. Understand me?
Yes, sir.
Saving them from molestation, saving them from prison, saving them just from the conditions and the statistics that young black men in America end up. You
Right.
understand me? So
Absolutely.
thank you for the work that you do.
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you being on High Level Conversations.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Appreciate it, man.
19 keys and this is high level conversation. Tap in with the guys.
High-level conversations with Brother 19 Keys was probably one of the better conversations I've had in a long time. It was way overdue. We've been talking behind the scenes for a good little while, so it's good for us to finally meet and collaborate. I think it's one of the biggest things that I want people to also take from this interview is collaboration. People from all over who do different things need to be able to communicate with each other and collaborate and share ideas. I think that's one of the biggest things that I wish for people to know.
Yeah, I decided to have King Randall on high level conversations because, you know, he a young leader that's actually making real community impact and change. You know, for some, they may think he controversial in the way that he be able to move about with all different walks of life. To me, there's nothing controversial about helping young black boys. You understand me? So I definitely wanted to have his voice on there to introduce him to more people that doesn't know his story, but also have a conversation with a younger generation and how they're going to go about changing the world. So we had a very powerful, dynamic conversation. You understand me? And I think that all parents around the world should tune in to it so you can tap in.
One thing I believe in, and one of our hashtags is big boy faith. I believe in having faith in my own abilities and knowing who I am and who I was created by. So I have power in my own right. So anything that I want, anything that I could make up in my mind, I can go and do on my own. And at 22 years old, we're opening a school up September 12th, 2022. And I started this program at 19 years old. So in just 3 years, we were able to make this happen with an idea that I had, and now we've made it a reality. So if I can do it, especially coming from one of the one of the fourth poorest cities in the whole United States, I believe anybody can do it anywhere.
As black males in America, you understand me, we are seen as some of the toughest on the planet Earth. You understand me? Because the world is used to us going through the motions, used to us going against oppression, used to us going through pressure, used to us being against the 8 ball. You understand me? And there's a lot of strength that's been robbed from the young black male. When we look at the high mental health issues and rates in America, the incarceration rates, the homicide rates, the death rates, you understand me, the diseases, and a multitude of other different things, that means that somebody needs to be able to speak life into young men. You understand me? There's an emasculation of young males that happen all throughout the world, and that's when you rob them of that strength. You understand me? That they believe that they possess based on the role that you have of being a masculine entity. And so being able to become an environment to where you re-energize that into the young mind or make sure that it never leaves out is protecting the future of family, protecting the future of protectors, which are men in society often. So speaking life into young men is the duty that every single black man has, the same way that every black woman has. But I believe that the black man has failed at some of his duties, and it's time for us to take that responsibility and hold ourselves accountable and make sure that we reach back to the younger generation.
My name is King Randall, and I'm on High Level Conversations with 19 Keys.
Yo, I'm 19 Keys. You just tapped into High Level Conversations. Make sure you give us a 5-star review. Make sure you comment. Make sure you like. Make sure you send that out to the whole entire world so you can tap them into something high level as well. I appreciate y'all tuning in as always. Peace. I just set tone a long time ago that if you see a white person standing next to me, it mean they selling out, not me.
Yep. Yeah, they try me with that till they see when I have these conversations with white folks.
Yeah.
I don't differ. I'm like, bro, I've been saying the same thing for the past 3 years. I said, I can't help that they agree, but when they start agreeing and I start telling them where I got it from, they be like, oh, I didn't know that. Like when I do tell them something about the minister, they're like, he said that? I'm like, yeah, the minister said that.
Yeah.
But that's crazy.
Man, you just, you got to bring your own environment. That's
Exactly.
all.
I bring my energy.
Having a problem with your little swimmers? Having a problem with your testosterone? Not feeling quite like a man when you go into the gym? Can't go in there and exert maximum energy, falling off? How about you try and tap into some of the sports malls? Specially formulated so you can feel like a man again. You can tap in, high endurance, and at the same time, it's a very small recovery rate because of what's inside this bottle right here. Tapped in for the man inside you. Now we know toxic masculinity is the new trending topic. But what about healthy masculinity, goddammit? What if I told you inside this bottle is a little bit of healthy masculinity? Would you take it? Make sure you tap in. Get you a little bit.